Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me make sure the audio is coming through all right. Great. Looks like you can hear me. And I'll adjust the audio levels a bit more as we get into this thing because it's always a bit touchy. But welcome in, everybody. This is the very first Grimoire live stream, and we are here to celebrate the Forgotten Runiverse open beta test in an absolutely phenomenal OBT event. I've been through a lot of them in my time in the space, and this one was really special. I think that the team put together an amazing product for us to enjoy, and then not only that, but they were also able to pivot where they needed to pivot and adjust where they needed to adjust. And I could not be more elated about the past 2 weeks. My mind is fried. I have been literally obsessed with this game since it launched. So I really don't even know how I'm going to get by while not having it for who knows how long. But we are here to talk about everything that happened over the past 2 weeks. We're going to talk about what we experienced during the OBT, what to look forward to during the future. We're going to do a bit of a tier list. There are so many spells, cantrips, and skills in the game. We're not going to touch on armor. We're going to stick to the spells and skills because armor gets a bit. There's too many pieces. Let's be honest. There's too many pieces to go through a tier list. So we're going to stick to the spells there, and then we're going to end off with the Grim Bear Challenge event. We're going to review all the submissions and find out who our winners are. I'm going to be joined in this live stream today with a couple different members. We've got some with us now, and a few more are going to be funneling in a bit later. Right now, we have with us Hale, absolutely amazing analytical brain. We've got Half-Blood, theory crafting god, and did I say half brain? I meant half blood. Half blood. We've also.
Oh damn.
My bad, brother. We've also got Daniel, who is actually one of the dev team members, one of the guys who's actually helping make this game in the call with us right now. Thank you all so much for actually joining with me today during this Grimoire live stream. I'd like you all to say a few words about yourself. Can we start with Daniel?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I gotta say, when they told me they were doing this show tonight, they asked me if I wanted to participate, and I was like, hell yeah, I want to be part of this. And then when I found out that they were gonna do a tier list of the spells, which are pretty much one of my dear creations for this game, I was like, well, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention. So thank you for having me. I'm a game designer on the Runiverse team, and yeah, it's been so exciting and so inspiring to see the community growing around this game. So thank you.
Awesome, Daniel. Thank you so much. Half-Blood.
Hey guys, good morning from Germany. How is it going?
Half-Blood, you wanna expand a little bit, man?
You doing a disservice to yourself. You work with Half-Blood for so long, and when you are in call with this man, the ideas he comes with and the way he iterates on like trying to figure the game out. Half-Blood, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
I think.
Oh, sorry guys, I kind of lost my headphones for a second.
Oh, we were wondering what happened. No worries. No worries.
I was like
talking
for a few seconds. I was just talking for a few seconds without realizing that you can't hear me.
We missed it all.
You cut off exactly at a point where we were thinking, "Oh wow, he's a man of few words."
No, no, you guys, you know me. I love to talk. I like to
Absolutely.
talk. You know?
So let's start from the top. Half-Blood, welcome in.
Yeah, thank you guys. Good morning from Germany again. It's 3 a.m. I just woke up just for you guys. I love to be here. Yeah, my name is Half-Blood Nerd. I'm an artist. I'm a gamer. and a wannabe content creator for Runiverse. And I actually don't know what should I do now that the server of Runiverse are offline. So I'm really struggling here now because I have nothing else to do than just wait
I'll tell you what we're
for
gonna
the
do,
official
Half Blood.
global launch.
I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're going to plan. We're going to prepare. And when the full launch comes, we're going to be the greatest guild in the entire space.
Wow.
That's what we're
Yeah,
gonna do.
I mean, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Half Blood Theory Crafting Master, thank you so much. Hail! Welcome in.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Half Blood. Daniel, thank you for being here as well. Hi, everyone. My name is Hale. Many of you might know me, but then I'll start from the top. I used to do a bit of work with game design in Axie Infinity, specifically with Origins, but then I've dipped my fingers in a few of the other aspects or titles of the game as well, mostly as a community manager and an analyst. And I've just been like head over heels and straight into the deep end of the pool with Forgotten Runiverse as a MMO, which for me is my personal choice of genre for games. And it having this Dungeons and Dragons esque, um, fantasy style setting. It really just put the hooks in me. And on top of that, like just the way that everything is just crafted together with the community, it's absolutely endearing. So I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversations we'll be having tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hale. Well, let's jump right into it. While we talk, I'm actually going to play. I wanted to play footage of the game, and since it's no longer online, we're going to I'm going to be playing some of my previous live stream footage, just because the whole stream is about the game, right? And while we talk about our experiences over the past 2 weeks playing this OBT, I figured it's probably best to have some of the game footage running. So I've got that pulled up here. I want to start talking about like what our experiences were like first hopping into the game. Now this was the OBT. There was a CBT prior. Half Blood. I don't think you were in the CBT, were you?
No, unfortunately not.
What about you, Hale? Did you get to experience the CBT at all?
Yeah, I jumped in. I actually thought it would be 3 days long, but it was only two, so I got rushed a little bit to the end. But then I made it to the final level. So I capped out, I believe it was 15, if I'm not mistaken, and we ended the CBT just closing it out, beating the shadow bosses in the cave, and then those were released a little bit later on. So it was a good experience.
So the shadow bosses were there all the way back then, huh?
Yeah, they came out, if I'm not mistaken, just towards the end of it. It was the final quest in the line that was available. And so I really like that idea of like these nightmare versions or these infinite versions of bosses that you encounter in the regular field. So it's always like, like in different games you'll have like hardcore mode or hard mode or whatever mode where it's just like a little throwback to like these opponents you fought before. And so I really like that concept. I'm looking forward to maybe seeing more of that. Maybe out there's a Shadow Queen Bee boss. So who knows?
Hey, yeah, man. Even like Legend of Zelda, was it Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, where you fight the Nega Link? It's such a common trope, but it's one that's it's never overdone.
Right, right.
You love to see it. So new content since from the CBT to the OBT. We're talking about the dungeons, right? The Witch of the Wild dungeon, the Buried Pyramid dungeon. Those are all brand new pieces of content that you got to experience here, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way they went about it. First, we had the Witch of the Wild, fairly straightforward in design. I really enjoy the fact that the gear was split into three different paths, and it was a little choose your own adventure style of like how you wanted to go about it. So it added that level of replayability. especially when it came down to who you entered the dungeon with, because perhaps they needed something from the east path, from the west path, from the south path. But of course, you could only choose two. So there were reasons for you to want to come back, right? And on top of all of that, like just the storylines. And I had a conversation with Bill, and he was telling me how like these characters in the dungeon, like he knows the people behind the characters. So it was such a cool moment.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to get more involved with the community, learn who all these cult members are, who all these wizard owners are, and yeah, because I feel like the Forgotten Runiverse IP is such a large grand ecosystem, and this game is just a small part of it. And but this game is representative of the ecosystem as a whole, even if it is just a small aspect of it. So I can't wait to get more involved and more in depth with the community as a whole. Half-Blood, I wanna touch on like the first couple of days getting into the game, like waking up in the wizard encampment, running around the area for the first time, talking to all the people, getting your first quests, running around that first area, finding the cockatrice for the first time. What are some of the moments that really stood out to you?
Good question. I really don't remember exactly how I started or how
That's
I
what
experienced it.
that's what
No,
happens
because
when you play this game 12 hours a day, every day for 2 weeks straight.
yeah, it was actually incredible because so I remember I stumbled upon this game kind of on accident on Twitter, and I was like scrolling around actually finding a game to play, you know, and yeah, then I found Forgotten Runiverse, and I remember playing a very, 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 very early version of this game. It was maybe 2 years ago, where it was something like of a Super Mario Brothers a game where I control a little wizard, if I remember correctly. So this was kind of my first touch with Runiverse. But remembering the open beta, it was really overwhelming. I gotta be honest, I was really overwhelming because the last time I played an MMORPG was like almost decades ago, and the and it and I think it was RuneScape, and I was pretty amazed how similar it was.
there's there's a lot of similar vibes, like there's aspects of the game that definitely feel like not RuneScape, right? Like the combat almost reminds me more of Final Fantasy, but
yeah,
it's hard to put your finger on it, but the feeling of playing it, like the way that you felt, the way that I feel playing this game is the way that I felt when I was 11 years old playing RuneScape for the first time with my friends. Is that what? Yeah,
right.
exactly. Yeah.
So I think what really hits me, like in a positive way, was the farming aspect. The especially when it comes to mining stones. This really reminded me of RuneScape, and this is also a reason why I played RuneScape, because of the aspect of farming. Because you feel very satisfied at the end of a gaming day when that you achieved, like some kind of milestone. Like, for instance, you reach a certain level in mining, or you mine like 24/7 for a special gear or for a special weapon, and this is also exactly what we did in Runiverse, right? To get the right stuff, you have to grind, you have to farm, right? And this was like one of the reasons I stick with Runiverse. I mean, I'm also a big fan of Pixel. This was also
Right.
really, really awesome. There was so much. It was so much. I mean, I was instantaneously hooked.
Absolutely. I think we all every single one of us here were. Daniel, I'd love to hop over to you. I know that you're a dev for the game, but I'd love to hear about your experience playing through it during this OBT as well.
Well, my experience is really fun because at the same time as we have deployed the game, we have like our internal testing servers, right? So we're always jumping around, and whenever we get the chance to actually play on the game itself with you guys and seeing other players in the same environment that we have been testing, it's honestly like a whole different game. Like you're used to seeing these worlds from a design standpoint of, okay, where are we placing this enemy, where are we placing this resource, right? And then you see it come alive when players are running around, and it is an entirely different experience. So having the chance to play with you guys, it was amazing for us, and it was like this temptation that we had all day because it was so easy to be like, hey guys, I'm gonna jump into the game to test a couple of things, when in reality we just wanted to play the game. Like there's some members of the team who are famous for being such grinders, right? We always joke around whenever we do a playtest where it's like, okay, we're doing a new reset on the server, but we need high-level characters. So immediately we go to like Lucas, right? Because we know that he has been playing the game, because we've tried to get something so engaging that it is impossible for us not to engage with ourselves and just love playing the game.
Right. That's awesome. One of my favorite aspects of the game, that it's something that took me a little while to nail down, to figure out like what is it that's so enticing. And I don't even know if this is fully it, but it's something that I just can't get out of my brain. And Hale, I think you touched on it during a Twitter space earlier. It's that there's this amazing sense of discovery in the game. And that being said, that being said, there are so many games in Web3 that are very difficult to onboard. The tutorials maybe aren't very clear. Maybe they don't cover all the topics they needed to cover. Maybe the game's a little more complicated than maybe it should be. But in Forgotten Runiverse, they struck this amazing balance of the tutorial is exactly what it should be. The tutorial teaches you everything you need to know about the crafting system, about combat. It's streamlined, it's charming. The guy who's taking you through the basic tutorial quests, just starting out in the game, I don't know. Like I immediately felt like attached to him. I was like, oh, this is my clan leader. This is the guy who's gonna show me all the ropes. I need to stick around this guy. And I didn't realize till just now that I don't think you ever talked to him at all throughout the rest of the game after the tutorial, which is a real shame because he has some charisma to him. But back to the main subject. This game struck such an amazing balance between being easy to learn through the tutorial, teaching you all the mechanics right away so that they're fresh in your brain, but then once you have the tools, you understand how to craft, you understand how to combat, then you just kind of get left out on your own. And what I'm talking about with the sense of discovery is like, you get sent to this world map where there are monsters that you can battle and gain materials, but there's no world map of this area. There's no quest marker telling you exactly where to walk to. You have quests, absolutely. There are plenty of quests, but you kind of have to figure out how to do them on your own, which is something that I think a lot of games don't get right. A lot of games will just tell you, oh, walk here. And then it just becomes a task simulator. Oh, walk here. Oh, walk there. Oh, talk to this person. Oh, talk to that person. But no, now like, oh, there's a tree person. There's a young Ent who is in trouble. He's lost his friend out in the wilderness, and there's monsters running around. This person might be dead, but all they know is that they're sad and they can't find their friend. And you could look around for a while and find that friend, but it's not gonna. When you finally do find the friend, it's a shock and a surprise because it's in a totally different area. You don't expect it, and again, it's just another factor of that discovery. The crafting system. You get a recipe. You know what you want to craft. Because it's the newest weapon. You just got it. You're really excited. You inscribe the recipe, but now you need to craft it. And guess what? You need materials. And you might not know where to find those materials. And you're going to have to search throughout the world to find it. And, obviously not everyone's cup of tea to do a lot of legwork, but there are resources for those types of people. And one of the resources that we saw come out of the woodworks was Runiverse.wiki. Absolute amazing resource from I believe this wasn't even made from a team member from the Forgotten Runes side. This was just a random community member who said, "Hey, I want to help people out who are struggling in the game." So we've got Forgotten Runiverse wiki right now. So for people who don't like discovery and just want to be guided through, this is a great resource for you.
Yeah, shout out to Base64 who did put the wiki up, and they've been around the Ronin community for a while. They had resources for pixels, they had resources for axes and that, right? And we're lucky to have him or her, I'm not sure myself, with us here in Runiverse. So an absolute gem of a community member who has done the Ouroboros' work for us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for coming up with that knowledge, Hale. I wasn't aware of the actual community member. I'm glad you had that knowledge. Moving on to like mid OBT. So week one, everyone was sort of experiencing the game for the first time, right? Everyone was sort of just grinding through the game, leveling up, getting some equipment. But I think by the end of the first week, most people were max leveled, right? And the goal sort of became, everyone probably finished most of their quests around that time. And the goal then sort of became, all right, we're max level, we've got our good equipment. Now let's try to get mana and roll that font of memory gotcha machine, right? But what really shocked me from the team, and I wasn't expecting this at all, was to see that new content was being released even during this 2-week OBT event. To have a brand new dungeon with all new enemies, all new lore, all new story, all new art assets, new bosses, in the middle of this OBT event, which was just supposed to be a test so we could test the servers and optimize things for the full launch. No. This isn't just a test. No, we're going to be having fun here. We're going to be pumping out new content and keeping things exciting. What did you guys think about the second dungeon when it first launched?
I didn't get to run it until much later, so everyone's seen it before myself. And when I finally did, I found it to be very interesting because we had this conversation previously, Ryan, where it's so interesting in that it gives you so much freedom in how it allows you to tackle the dungeon. So there are what would be missable events or lines that could happen, but then it's really, like I said a while ago, like a little choose your own adventure. So like there were optional bosses, there were different ways to progress. It's like whether or not you wanted to fight the second boss or just get through it with a very sweet offering of 10 honey, and whether or not you would take the buffs, accidentally trip over the debuffs, and if you unlock the secret vault as well, right? So I love the fact that the dungeon was very non-linear in a sense where you really needed to explore that dungeon.
Right.
It wasn't like this single file corridor of like walk this way with like giant airport arrows saying like, yep, this way to departures. So it was great, and like the lore is literally all over the walls, and I'd love to hear what Daniel has to say about it from the dev side, because I feel like it's always interesting to see from behind the curtain kind of perspective.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
launch of the second dungeon was one of our most like hyped moments during the whole event. We're honestly like at the edge of our seats when it was being deployed onto the server because it was this way for us to not only like what we were looking for to pace the content that we're releasing because we didn't want people to feel completely overwhelmed with just all the dungeons, all the things, just straight out of the gate. We wanted players to organically engage and level up and bring up their characters to where we could be like, okay, you guys, you think you conquered the open beta? Here's a new challenge, right? Here's a new boss. Let's see how good your characters have become. And it was also a testament of what our mission is with the game to have this live environment and this live world that is growing along with the community itself, right? As we get more players and as more stories are being told inside of the world, we ourselves are deploying more content for people to engage with, right? So this was also kind of our own personal challenge of we're proving ourselves and the community just how dynamic the deployment of new content can be. So it was a great moment for us seeing everyone just immediately jump into the pyramid dungeon.
Absolutely love that. I think maybe, and I could be wrong, it could have happened sooner, but then one of the first iterations of that, I think, was with Guild Wars 2, when they introduced the Living World system, where they released a storyline and events would happen throughout the service of the game, and after the events would be done, they would just become permanent. Like, there would be certain areas where there would be like this thriving wilderness, and then all of a sudden some cataclysm happens, and then now it's just like this burning, smoking ash pit of like war and everything else. Guild Wars 2 was a very long time ago, so I don't remember the story perfectly. But then like when you talk about it, that's where my head goes, and it was such an amazing experience because it really gave you the sense of like you had to be there. It give you this experience of like when you stand in this forest, you could be like, this didn't used to be here. It used to be something else. So, and I love that. And it's very similar to the way that the lore is being written out by the community as well. How people iterate on top of what it already exists, and like the story being like just open and unwritten.
Right. Half-Blood, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whoever came up with the concept of the second dungeon, I mean, it was really, really awesome because the first dungeon we experienced at the windmill, right? It was pretty straightforward, right? I mean, you still have to decide which way you want to go, depends on what you need. Like if you need like a certain gear, you have to choose to go east or west or whatever, right? But the second dungeon had, how can I say it? It
was
felt really puzzly, I mean,
yeah.
it was a puzzle at first. No one really knew what to do, so we had actually a great time figuring out what this dungeon has to offer. And now in retrospective, the concept of the like every dungeon had 3 type of gear, right, and 2 spells, right?
Right.
And in the pyramid dungeon, they were spread around, I like the concept of the vault where you had to find the key.
Right.
It's
an absolute
underground.
Secret. It's a complete secret that you could do 100 times over again and get nothing from it. But there's this sense in your heart, and you know there's something to it. You know there's something more than just an item recipe, right? So I'm gonna keep on trying it. I'm gonna keep on opening this door with this key. I'm gonna keep on getting the key and going to the door and opening it. And oh my God, Entropy's game! No way! I got a new spell, dude. Oh, absolutely phenomenal design.
Yeah, the rush of opening the vault and see if we got anything from it, and I don't know, it was really beautiful made. I really like that the first and the second dungeon are like yin and yang, not very similar, something new and refreshing.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I want to touch on something that Pacha said. He's a viewer in chat right now. He said dungeon design is good, and experience depends on how much effort you put. Every party does it differently. And I think that's something that the second dungeon did extremely well, was to give these different avenues of completing the dungeon to players. You know, if players are all about just combat and DPS, you can actually complete the dungeon extremely fast in about 7 minutes just through fighting the bosses and doing combat. But if you're a player that enjoys the lore aspect and enjoys, maybe you're not a big fan of the combat, you can there's actually ways of playing this dungeon where you can skip a lot of the bosses, and instead you're actually solving puzzles instead of defeating bosses, which I think is such, that is the way a game should be. Versatility, you know, you completing the things the way that you want to complete them, not the one specific way that it was meant to be completed. You know, when you're having an adventure with friends, you're going spelunking through a cave, or you're going on a hike through the woods. You know, you can stay on the hiking trail, or you can go off the beating path and actually have a real adventure. And I think that's what we got with the second dungeon.
Oh man, it's like oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, just one more thing. And this was maybe the most brilliant thing they could have done in the pyramid. The moment we figured out that the relic in the pyramid was only dropped by not offering anything in the second instance of the game to fight these two guardians.
Right, that's the only way to get the Amber Guard spear.
Yeah, and it took us a little bit. It took us a little bit of time to figure this out, but it made sense. You know, it made sense that these two guys are going to drop the weapon.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, I love that design aspect of the game where it's like, of course they drop this badass spear because they have them. They're holding on to spears themselves. Perfect sense, right? So it's like this random thing where it's like suddenly you'll get like, I don't know, a gun or something else. It's like, what's this doing in here? So, but you know, like when I ran the dungeon myself the first time, and I'm like a completionist in this sense, we turned over every stone, we cracked open every vase, we popped open every sarcophagus, opened every single vault, and like that sense of like either getting loot or the dread of like the footsteps coming out of the shadows, and then it's a fight. It added that level of like exploration to it. It'd be funny actually if maybe the access to the lower level would have been like a regular vault, and it was very like Diablo-esque with the loot go lane, find the right temple or the right burial. It's like, oh, you found it, this is the one, and it leads you down. So I found it to be very good, and I was telling people it's like as Half-Blood said, with the first dungeon being a little bit more straightforward, it is the first dungeon after all. And so introducing players to that sense of how to progress, that you have to converse with NPCs, that there are certain plot devices scattered about the map that are optional. Like you had the option of like collecting these waters that would disperse the spirits in the next map and allow you to cut through shortcuts or access certain treasures, or the blessings that would come from the lakes, right? So all of these things being there and allowing for like a deeper experience for the player if they so want, right? So it doesn't force anyone to do anything, and your journey or your adventure is exactly as you might have it. And it, as we were saying a while ago, it really adds that level of replayability of these dungeons, because maybe one day you'll run the dungeon with someone else who's done it differently, and then you can share these experiences with each other, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, like to touch on that, and also to touch on what Daniel said earlier, like the OBT was halfway over. Most players had already gotten max level and finished out the dungeon, so it's kind of like this this mentality of we're going into second week with like, well, what's next? What else is there? And then immediately the second week hits, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is what's next. But it's not just like, oh guys, hey, there's more here. It's, hey guys, here's a little touch, here's a little taste of what we have planned in the future, you know, because it wasn't just like, oh, here's more of the same. It was like, oh, here's something completely, absolutely different. And I think that, yeah, that was definitely an amazing sign. And it's it's super bullish, man. It's super bullish, and it's the same thing with the bear too. You know, like we got the second dungeon, the buried pyramid, about 1 week in, halfway through the OBT, and then with I think not even 48 hours left. You know, the OBT's coming to a close. People are winding down. A lot of people have already finished playing. They've got their 250 rolls at the Font of Memory. People are starting to relax a little bit, and it's like, oh, I've already beat the second dungeon. I've gotten all my gear. What else is there for me to do? Oh, there's a brand new boss, this giant black bear, glowing red with evil demonic energy. This is a brand new challenge for me and my team to take on. What was that moment like when you guys first heard or saw the bear in the game? Half-Blood, I know I was on stream with you live that moment. That was that was exciting, man. Tell me about it.
I kind of want. I actually don't want to talk about the super black bear.
Well, I know that we didn't have enough time to give it a fair shake. But talk about like your perspective, like when we first learned that it was even in the game. Like what was going on in your mind?
So look, I'm 99.9% sure that before they announced this new bear, right, before they implemented the new bear, I think no one was thinking I did everything in the game. Because point 1, impossible, and point 2, impossible. You know, because
there's too many spells to test out. There's too many builds.
Too many combinations. Too many like those that you have to that those affixes are all random. You know, gives gear building, right, a whole new level of experimentation. You know, what you can if you want to go to build a brilliance build or a strength or a might build, or maybe a build that's more about debuffing the enemy. I mean, it takes hours and hours and hours of farming and like in thinking to come up with the best combination of spells and gear. So trust me, no one was really in the end game. You know.
I want to segue real quickly and just like build on top of what Half-Blood is saying here. That's something that I absolutely love about the game, where in its system, your stats are based on the spells and gear you equip. And that if you wanted to specialize in a certain playstyle, then you would need to dedicate those hours, the effort into farming out the specific spells and gear that you wanted to be really good at. Like myself, I had over 6,000 HP because for whatever reason, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to be a tank. I will be the DPS check of the mobs. And with this build, I was able to help a lot of people get through the dungeons because I was just like, I got you. Don't worry about it. You know, I'm not going to die. You just kill him before I die. So, and it was great. So, and like the fact that players are able to just kind of pivot from their playstyle as required, where if you ask me, it's like, hey, do you mind doing a little bit of DPS? Like, yeah, sure. I've got the spells for it. I got a few gear for it. I'm not going to be the best at it because it's not what I farmed for, but I can do that. Some games don't allow for that. It's like you'll be fully invested in your character in one direction and you can't pivot at all. You'd have to start from scratch.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge.
You know, to be able to go in a different direction, but it still respects the time that a player puts specializing into a certain direction, right? So just to add on top of what Half-Blood was saying, I think I really enjoy that system. It's very smart in that regard. It's very flexible, as well as the crafting system using more, I want to say, generic, region-specific materials. Like you had like the Timeless, the Chittering, the Sorrowful, the Embers, the Shards, the Souls. Right? It wasn't Wolf's Fang. It wasn't Rat's Tail. It wasn't, Slime's Goo. And it made it so that farming any of these mobs made sense. You didn't have like 100 people standing on top of the same bear, so to speak. So
Right.
anyway, I'm sorry to cut. I just had to come in there because it's such a good um, system design that Daniel, please extend my regards to it. If it's you, then thank you, Daniel. But if it's not, and I'm sure it's a group effort as well. But it's
Yeah,
it's
it's a group
it's
effort.
it's so good. It is absolutely a group effort. I know for sure.
No, I'll make sure to tell everyone. I'm pretty sure like some of them are actually listening to us right now. We always try to pay as much attention as possible to whatever comes up with the community because honestly, this is like some of the greatest opportunity to get feedback, right, on what we're doing and how we can better the game for the people who are gonna play it.
Yeah. On that note, I have a good question for you, Daniel. What is something about the game that maybe the team was not like 100% sure of putting out, but then in the end turned out to be like a really good decision in retrospect? What is something that like you're like very glad to have decided
What an
on as a
what an
team?
awesome question, because usually the things that become hype in popular culture are most of the times the things that you think aren't going to do that well to begin with. You know what I mean? So I love where that question's going.
All right. I don't know if this is the answer that you're seeking, honestly, because not to like overhype my team. I love everyone in that team, and it's difficult for us at any point to look at a feature or a piece of content that is being developed and doubt, if we should do it because mostly we're just very like hyped. We really want to get it out there to see player reaction. So it's not that we're kind of like afraid of releasing something. It's mostly the expectation of are they gonna like it, right? So there have been a couple of instances where some of the decisions that we made we knew were off the norm. Like one of the things that you touched upon at the start of the conversation was the general design for the rumors inside of the game. Our equivalent of missions, which is very open for players to interpret what the information they're getting is and finding their own way in the world to solve that. This is a very kind of old school method, old school approach to mission design. And it is on purpose. Like we really wanted to emulate all those MMOs and all those RPGs that build a foundation for this genre, right? And bring them to life with new bonder sensibilities. So putting it out there, a system of missions that doesn't tell you, hey, go to this point in the map, right? With how a lot of games right now hold the hand of the player at any point, we know it was kind of a risky bet to do it because we were afraid, like, okay, are players gonna like this? Are they gonna be annoyed that they have to go through the whole step themselves? But honestly, the reception was so positive that we just felt like really reinforced and pumped about taking this whole school approach to it because it is kind of the great inspiration for the game is all that was built before we came into the genre, right? To bring out all those original concepts, all those ideas from the RPGs of the past, from Ultima, right? From the Final Fantasy games, from RuneScape, and all of them. So yeah, that was possibly one of the more, what can I say, like the one that caused the most anxiety in our minds when releasing it. But other than that, the content is always something we're really proud of. So it's mostly just the expectation of seeing are they gonna like this? Are they gonna love this? You know, it is a constant process.
Well,
I
when you
love
work
that.
hard on something that you're passionate about, you can't help but feel that way, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. It's so good to like the idea that like the team is just like on the edge of their seats, being like, "We need to put this out. I think this is good." And it's you need to have that sense of like confidence and being hyped over your own game. I feel like is such a good thing for any team to have, and like playing the game yourselves and being happy with the results. And as Daniel was saying a while ago, that they had a few people making excuses of I just got to try something out a little bit. Don't worry about it. Just making sure this bug that I heard on Discord from this random guy, isn't really affecting the game. I'm not farming, I swear. I don't need another 30 crafts. Don't mind me. So.
Yeah, the amount of team members that we had at max level, anytime we released any of these events, or even anytime we released a new testing build, it was like, when are you guys working? You're playing the game so much, and we love to have that. So knowing that we have that effect on players as well.
Yeah, it's great. It is great. And like as you were saying as well, like with the quests, it's like it wouldn't be surprising to me if like maybe in the future, like these older maps, all of a sudden like this brand new NPC pops out of nowhere. Then you have like new players being like, "Hey guys, what's this NPC do? How do I do this quest?" Like, and the older players who have like gone past that floor, he's like, "Wait a minute, what NPC? That wasn't there before." So like, there's so much opportunity to just like insert these characters into different maps and like create new experiences at any given time, and I feel like that's really
And one of the beauties of being on a browser game is that you can kind of do that without really telling anybody and without anybody noticing.
Yeah, like no one's going through the
I was
patch
streaming
or whatever.
I was streaming for like 2-3 hours. I don't know if you know this, Hale. I was streaming for like 2 or 3 hours before the black bear before the new bear boss came out, right? I was literally streaming. I was streaming the game, just playing and having fun. We were doing our grinds, and then somebody in Discord messaged me. The game never went down, is what I'm saying. Like,
that was like such a. I remember playing another game and they did that, and like everyone's heads were just blown out of their minds. And it's like when they did that first announcement, I remember this, and because it was such a good throwback. They're like, "All right, guys, we're gonna do a little bit of a maintenance here."
Real quick. I learned about the bear. We learned about the bear by stumbling on it by accident before they announced it. Before they announced it. Because it was a soft update. The game never went down. And that's what I'm saying, dude. The game never went down. We're just playing, and then all of a sudden we walk into an area. Boom! Brand new enemy. What the hell is this? There was no update. What happened?
Yeah,
amazing.
How did that first encounter go, Ryan?
Horribly. It is not as easy to kill as the other bear.
Oh man, and Logic, welcome in. Thank you. Love to see it.
Logic in the building.
Thank you for having me. Yes, sir. I just got done with my Aperon Guild Wars tournament match. Your boy had to hit him with a 2-0 real quick and come join y'all. How you guys doing?
Wonderful. Yo, congrats. Welcome in. Logic, we've been talking about our experiences throughout this OBT. Tell me some of the things that really stood out to you. What did you really enjoy?
Oh, and real quick, hit us with a quick intro, then jump into it.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Tell the people who you are.
Yo, what's up, guys? I'm Logic, _Ogic on Twitter, X, YouTube, everything, literally everything. I don't know, dude. I wear so many hats, it's ridiculous. I work at Moku Live Ops. I'm a Ronin ambassador. I saw my profile. Ronin Radio co-host. Boot Nation General, Meditate Gamer. Fuck. I don't know, a lot.
The list goes on.
No matter what hat Logic is wearing, his hands are in sweat. My boy is the top of the top with the PvP, with the theory crafting, with the min-max. He's out there all across the space. Logic, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. But yeah, no, my Runiverse experience, man, it's been amazing. I mean, I've loved the game ever since the first CBT, right? I really like the combat. I really like the world exploration. I really like the mechanics and things like that. I think on this test though, the main focus was mainly like getting mana, right? To get to the land and to get to your 250 rolls. So a lot of my time was just like figuring it out. First, before the dungeon came out, I figured out, I was like, yo, let's cook. What's the best thing that you could possibly farm right now? And it was the storm set at the time. and we were able to. I think the entire community figured out, right, that like if you farm the Storm Crown, it's kind of like your best time in the game spent just farming the Storm King boss over and over and over. And then the dungeon came out, right? The Windmill of the Wild with Larissa, the Witch Queen. And at first I thought it was like not the way, because I didn't know about the bear. I actually learned that from you guys, especially from Ryan, in Half Blood, and all of you guys here in Grimoire. And you guys were like, yo, this bear spawns like indefinitely. I'm like, holy shit, this is 100% the best farm. And then I ended up thinking about like combat builds, I suppose. I started just like I was playing a lot of solo, to be honest, because the bad part of the test for me was like the party issues, right, and some server issues and some desyncing stuff. And I think everyone has that experience, and I know it will get better since this is just a test, like I'm sure the team was focused on a lot more important things, like giving us good content and things like that. But I ended up playing a lot solo, a lot of pugging, a lot of like going into a map and be like, invite me to party, please, begging people to invite me. So, yeah, figured out just like, yo, I really want the shadow set. Shout out to Bay64.eth for making the Runiverse wiki. I saw the shadow set in there one day before it was actually in the game. And I was like, yo, this looks super interesting. I love crits. I've always played assassins. I was like, dude, crits is the best. If you can crit on things, like, you're just going to do a lot of damage. And that's what I went for. I just went for shadow set farming. And a lot of my time was spent on the cave until, like, the last 2 days, right? When you guys invited me to the bear, the new bear hunting for the challenge.
The dire bear.
So, the dire bear, that's what it is. The dire bear challenge.
I'm getting triggered again.
Yeah. Other than that, dude, just like a lot of solo experience, a lot of meeting a lot of cool people, and it's like gave me the old school feel of like being in an MMO and just typing and chatting to people in game in the map you're in, and that was like super nostalgic and super fun for me.
It's got the vibes.
Yes, like just the typing in town. I just remember like in Ragnarok Online, that's all you did, right? Like you just straight up like type every time. Like back then, I think we had like Skype or like maybe like Ventrilo, right? Like Discord wasn't even out yet, So it was like Ventrilo or Skype and a lot of in-game typing, and I just love that part of MMOs.
Like TeamSpeak.
Yeah, TeamSpeak. Yes, sir. The old school.
Chats and rock.
Is it VoIP, voice over IP, something like that?
Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah. We had to have two, because we had one for the generals of their guild, and the other one was like for their divisions. So that's how we did it. But now you got Discord, so it's a lot easier.
Well,
yes.
Oh my gosh, dude, what a amazing open beta test. And like the whole purpose of an open beta test, right, is to get people playing the game so that the devs, right, have the opportunity to really stress test the servers, to figure out if there are any bugs. This is a web-based game, so it's gonna be played on literally every device known to mankind. I think I heard today that in a Twitter space that I think it was even played on a Tesla car at one point.
Yeah.
So there's like there's so many different ways you can play this game, and the whole point of an OBT, right, is to get people playing the game so you can really test these things out, figure out where the pain points are, fix the bugs. And when it first launched, there were some pain points, right? There were some server connectivity issues, which were to be expected. But what really stood out to me was the fast response from the team. Regardless of who you are, you could be the best team in the world, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10 reviews in your past work, but like mistakes are, it's not even a mistake. It's just like things are bound to bound to happen, you know, like a server connectivity issue when you're going from a few thousand people in a closed beta test to a couple. I don't know what the exact numbers were. I think I heard 100,000 at one point. Don't quote me on that. I could totally be wrong. 100,000 players in an open beta test. It's a totally different thing to handle. So I mean, but what really stood out to me was the response from the team, how fast they were to start implementing and fixing things. We saw updates come out 24/7. Almost every single one made the game better than the one before it. And you know, for me, the connectivity issues were gone by like day 2 or 3. I think some people that were a little bit further away from the main servers persisted a little bit longer. But by that last week, man, the game was running so smooth. It was pretty astounding to see how much they had fixed and progressed. And then on top of that, to see all the extra content that they had planned and prepared for us. You know, I could not be more overjoyed. I've been through so many OBTs. I've been through so many new Web3 games like launching, and this one really is special. And I said this on the Twitter space. I'm going to say it again. I create content on most games that join the Ronin ecosystem, but when you see content entering my personal channel, Axie Faction, that means I am personally passionate about that. And I think the proof is in the pudding for Forgotten Runiverse, because I literally cannot stop myself from making content right now. It's an addiction.
You've been going hard, bro. I love it.
It's not just like everyone in this call. It's like there's so much content out there, people doing all sorts of different things, and it's so good to see. And it's such a testament to what Daniel said a while ago with how they are listening in, and tackling these problems as fast as they'd like to, or as fast as they can. On top of the fact that it being a web-based release and able to like put out these soft updates without too much disruption. So it's always good to see, especially during an OBT, to have that iteration happen live, and the communication. I think we see Bruce a lot in the Discord, just giving us a heads up on what's going on, what's going to happen, how long is it be down for, when it's back up. Literally, it's just one message like servers back up, and it's just a little.
Just to add on, I have to say this before I forget. So of course you can never control what happens to you in life. You can only control how you deal with it and how you react to what happens. And no matter what you're doing, there's bound to be things that go wrong. One of the things that did go wrong during this OBT is that there was an exploit. One of the players found a way to I think they found a way to roll the font of memory indefinitely, and they were able to basically begin minting an infinite number of lands. Now this bug was immediately caught. It was caught by sensors in the system. They caught it. They found the player. They started communicating with the player, and they paused all minting to make sure that no one else could exploit the bug. And what they did was they fixed the bug, and they talked to this person. They started locking up the exploited lands. But the people who bought land on the marketplace, even though it was land that had came from an exploit, it wouldn't be fair to like lock those lands. They were purchased from a fair buyer who was completely unaware of the exploit. And I think a lot of game companies, a lot of Web3 companies, could have just very easily said, hey, well, too bad you bought an asset that was from an exploit. Sorry, snooze, you lose. This is locked indefinitely forever. You're screwed. That's what most Web3 companies would do. That's not what Forgotten Runiverse did. You take it away, Hale.
Not just that. On top of all of that, they added this new corrupted tag to those lands. The effect of which is yet to be seen. So it's a very interesting moment in the game where
I feel like an interesting moment in all of Web3.
Yeah.
I feel like it's an interesting moment in all of Web3 because we have this moment that could literally, and it could have been a travesty, right? It could be like, oh my gosh, what like it could have been. It could have been something that somebody took and turned into a narrative that like could have like trashed the OBT and just sort of.
I feel like it's really well handled.
Tracks.
It
made it so much more hype, dude. I want a corrupted land. I really wish I had picked one up during that exploit.
I have a corrupted homestead in the Red Wizard City or Citadel, and
no
like
way.
You know, it's just like. Yeah, no, it's like the metropolis of like power and money and fame, and it's a little corrupted plot. So like, who knows what goes on in that plot? We'll find out.
It's super exciting.
But yeah, you know,
it's a piece of history now. If you own a corrupted plot, it's from this one very specific moment in time that'll never be recreated.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you know, like in retrospect, of course, in a perfect world, things like this would have been avoided, etc. And then somewhere out there, people will all. Say like it could have been done better, this should have been done instead, but then like in that moment and moving forward, I feel like it was handled well. You know, I feel like, you know, like if you think about it, it's like what better way could have been done after the fact, right?
Because like I said, you can't always control what happens to you. All you can control is how you react to that, and I think the team reacted in one of the coolest and most fun ways possible that actually benefited a lot of people that would have otherwise been victims. Right.
It was a very good pivot on the situation.
Yeah. But I want to move on now from the previous 2 weeks that we just spent dumping all of our time into to now the future and what people are looking forward to in terms of Forgotten Runiverse. In the future. Now, what we saw today, or what we saw over the past 2 weeks, was the open beta test. The full game has much more planned and in store. You know, one of the things that I am most excited about is PvP. I think that's going to be the impetus behind our guild as well, like our the Grimoire guild. We very well intend to be the strongest PvP group in all of Forgotten Runiverse. And one of the things that really stood out to me, that really solidified in my brain that PvP was going to be as sweaty as I hope it will be, was this new bear boss. Because we spent, I think, me, Logic, Half-Blood, and Nixtape, we spent probably 3 hours this morning grinding through it, testing out different builds, and it became very apparent that there are many ways to defeat that boss. Many ways. And, you know, we clearly didn't find the most optimal way, but what that means to me is that there are so many different ways, so many different spell and gear combinations to achieve a high level of power in this game. And the PvP, I think, is going to be so intricate because you're going to need to have all of those different combinations in your head to really be the best. And that's what I want to be. You know, what do you guys think? You guys excited about PvP in the future? Are there other aspects about the game? What is keeping you excited about the full launch of the game?
For me, I think I'm mostly excited over like the facilities that are available on the different land plots. It was shared and as written as well, like in the documentation that's available, that whatever facilities we have available, from the Mage Workshop to the Forge to the Atelier, to the Temple, etc., that those on player-owned plots will have an edge on top, and so I'm really looking forward to see how that is handled. I played a lot of PSO2, and they had a wonderful crafting system where you could customize spells, and you had to know who had like the best spell available inscribed on like their forge, and then you go up to them and be like, yo, I got the materials for this, you mind like putting this together for me, and you'd pay a fee, etc. So it's such a organic ecosystem that I feel like will tie really well into the game, especially with how like we have these random affixes that do range from certain percentages, right? So you imagine you go to someone's plot and they've really focused up on like the, I don't know, like the shadow relic, and because of which like their odds of hitting like a high roll are way better than like obviously the NPCs and maybe other players who didn't really focus on it as much as they did, right? So it's like, and it's one way to maybe like maybe you're not into dungeons, like maybe you just want to be like the best craftsman in the game, and you've got like a bunch of land that just does different recipes better than others. So it's so interesting to see something like that be added in, especially because like I played a game that had something very similar, so there's so much to be excited for.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and to go along that too, and kind of going into PvP, right? You kind of mentioned, hey, like, how are you feeling about PvP? Are you excited about PvP? I think for me, that's what I'm looking for. I understand like the lore aspect and the building of your settlement or your town or whatever land you may have is super cool. For others, I think I'm just the type of player to where I just fade those things naturally, and I definitely go for the PvP route. I'm definitely a little scared, right? Because the builds we came up with the dire bear stuff, or just like the crit based builds, I feel like if those are in PvP and like there's no taunter or tank on the enemy team that's gonna soak up the damage, is we're just gonna straight up one shot people. Which will be fun for sure. Like that's definitely gonna be a fun thing, right? Like imagine Nyx's build with what, like the 70% plus crit chance rate. Like that's gonna be insane. I want something like that, and I mean, shit. I mean, who knows? Maybe someone will just god roll into 100% crit, right? And just everything just crits, and just literally becomes like the glass cannon of the gods. So I'm definitely excited for that. I definitely want PvP. I definitely think like I really love Hale's build here to kind of bring him in, and Hale's build is like super specialized for tanking, and I think Hale's one of the only few players that specialized in like tanking and being this like big buff role that just soaks up the damage. I think Hale has he has like the frag wall, right? I'm sure he has the taunt spell too. I'm sure he has tremor and all those things. And that's what I'm interested in, is like, these really specific, definitely needed PvP build like ideas. And I kind of want to poke your head on that, Hale. Like I want to learn more on why you chose that, and did you design that for PvP?
So like myself, it's because I play on such a unstructured schedule, so it was very difficult to maintain playing with the static. So very often I'd have to have like a pickup group with randoms, and I thought of myself as like I can't go to the wall with DPS, because like if I'm together with others who can't manage, then it just wouldn't work out, especially in the dungeons. Like especially with the guardians, I think that was maybe the boss where my build really shined, because those guys will hit you like a truck. And like I've had rounds where I'll pop the taunt. I'm just like, please help, kill them, because I'm dying. So I can really see, and like what's nice is, especially if you've never experienced getting perma slowed by mummies, I will tell you now, it is hell. I've had like an entire round where I played one spell and it was a taunt, and that was it. Like, because I was just like permanently slowed. But then in my mind, I'm like, well, it's better off being me than my DPS, because they're doing work, right? So I feel like that sort of thing where you'll have these roles in dungeons, and especially in PvP as well, because PvP, the good thing about it is it's player generated content wherein everyone's trying to one up each other, everyone's reading the meta, everyone sees what's happening, and they're like, I can do this better, I can counter what these people are doing, I've got something up my sleeve. And it's just something that'll happen naturally, right? So I think like as long as the systems are done in a way that promotes not just going 100% crit across the board for 4 players and just being like a speed run of who can kill each other faster, then we'll have something very dynamic, right? They can do anything from like doubling the size of the ATB bar so that speed matters more, right? Because you got like a longer way to run. So, or like adding something like crit shield, for example, associated with like constitution or whatever. So I definitely can expect to see some degree of like PvP related balancing. That's not unusual, because oftentimes like these spells and gear are tuned more for PvE. But then like it's exciting to think of the different builds and strategies that players might put forward.
For sure.
And
for sure.
and like I don't know if like I put a post out together with Nix because we were farming in the Shadow Cave for a while, and he's got like this crazy magic build. I can't hold a candle to him. But what I did was I took 3 spells with accelerate. And I was like, Nix, you take the wheel, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna lay you up, dude. It's like I'm gonna push you forward, and it's all on you. And I think that's great. You know, it's like these are the types of combinations that you might not expect from players.
And I think during this OBT, a lot of people, because we're just fighting mobs, a lot of people went with the straight min-max DPS build. But yeah, I think when PvP comes along, it's going to get so much more complicated, because you're not just fighting mindless boss monsters anymore. You're fighting other sweaty hardcore players that are probably just as good or better than you are in the game. So it's yeah, the amount of versatility and creativity that you use with your comp is going to come in really handy, because otherwise players are going to be able to expect what you're throwing out there, and it's not going to be a fun time for you.
And on that note, like I want to throw a question out to Daniel.
Yeah.
Because like on the white paper it says like as we go along we are expecting hundreds of spells. I think the number went up to like 300 or so. And like this is more of a design question. When these spells are, you know, developed or cooked, would you say it's more of a top down or a bottom up design where you envision where it'll be used first and then design it, or do you just design it and kind of like leave it to the players to kind of find where it belongs and fits?
I guess the first thing that I have to mention, and as you can imagine, I can't really go into specific details
of course,
you know, what's coming up next. There's a lot of content that we're bringing up, but there is no hyperbole in saying hundreds of spells, right? When it comes to assigning them, there are a couple of systems, you know, in the game that are upcoming, that is content being developed, that will really change the way you see spells, right? But just with the ones that we have right now, the way we design them is twofold. Like we design them not only as what role does a spell serve, right? We try to avoid a lot of overlap because we don't want players finding a spell and being like, oh, this is the same one but better, right? We want to fulfill very different roles in battle, because part of our mission statement with the game is for players to find their place in the world, and this is inside and outside of combat. Like you guys have mentioned many times, things like, oh, what if a player wants to become a master crafter? What if a player wants to become a master gatherer, right? Like those roles that you develop for yourself in the world are something that we're always aiming for. When it comes to spells, there's like 2 main factors going to you. Like I said, the first one is, what is this a spell for, right? Like what kind of tool do I want to give to you as a player? Because at the end of the day, spells are your tools for engaging with the world. At this moment, mainly with combat. And not only that, they also serve a narrative purpose. Things like the names of the crystals and the stories that are contained in the description of the crystals also go a lot into the details of the world, specifically the colors of magic that we have, right? What are we telling you about the red wizards? What are we telling you about the yellow wizards in this world through the spells that we're giving you? So when we design them, we try to find a place where we can, you know, get the maximum benefit from both. Where we develop, okay, this is a spell that characterizes one of the philosophies for the yellow mages, and it also serves as a tool for players that, for example, like you said, that want to enable their team, like their big hitters, to act faster. Like, oh, you want to be the guy that enables your healer to be there and heal whoever is about to die at the right moment, because that's your trick. You are a speed mage, right? So we're always trying to give players new tools to create new roles for themselves. And I think that's like the main drive when designing spells.
I love that. That's so good, especially for anyone who hasn't read up on the lore of the seven wizard hat colors or factions or whatever you'd like to call them. Do absolutely dive into it. It is a wealth of knowledge. And I love it because like myself as like a Magic the Gathering player, it really reminded me of like Ravnica, the city of guilds, where you had like these different guilds, all of which with their own like missions, visions, and beliefs. And some of them were friendly with each other, some of them absolutely at odds. And I kind of see that same dynamic sort of developing in the Runiverse with the seven wizard hats. And there are also the black hats or the shadow hats. So we'll see. It's so nice because I'm such a sucker for flavor, and so I love to hear it when you say that you have that storytelling in place on top of creating a categorized sort of like design where this is a red wizard spell, this is a yellow wizard spell, right? This is a green wizard spell, so on and so forth. So that's something to look forward to for sure.
Wonderful. Half-Blood. Love to hear what you're looking forward to in the future, man. Do you have anything to add here?
Nothing much actually. I think you guys already covered everything I was looking forward to. Maybe let me think about it. I think PvP can be very exciting. That's where theory craft comes in handy. Of course, I'm really looking forward to that. But also because we were talking about this super bear, I think it's necessary that in Runiverse we have multiple how can I say it, like bosses in dungeons that have a difficulty to defeat, right? So we as players have to come together and to think about how we can take this particular boss down, right?
Right.
From an achievement point of view, right? I would really love to see some achievement system to beat certain bosses, in a like this bear, for instance, right? We were supposed to beat the bear like as fast as possible, yeah, something like that.
That community challenge was really special, and I think it was the first taste. Even though it wasn't players fighting other players, it was kind of our first taste of PvP in the game, because we were competing with other players on who could get the best time on the bear. So it was sort of our first taste of PvP. Sort of like what that. For me and Half-Blood, I know we were theory crafting like crazy. The nights before we got the testing done, we were messaging each other back and forth. We were constantly talking in the Grimoire Guild Discord, and just theory crafting. How are we going to take this battle on? How are we going to take on this fight and come out on top? The same way we would be theory crafting and strategizing if we were about to enter a tournament against a really hard team, So yeah, that sense, that community challenge that they gave us was really special, and I think it was kind of our first taste of what PvP will sort of feel like in the future. Another thing to look forward to is actually like the game loop. This OBT, the game loop was crafting items to get mana so you could roll the Font of Memory. The Font of Memory will still be sticking around, but you're not going to be minting land crates from them anymore. I think that they will probably be refilled for events and stuff in the future, but the main game loop is actually going to be getting mana to craft better weapons. And I don't know if everyone in the chat knows this, but every piece of gear in the game, every weapon, every spell, every piece of armor, every recipe will actually, from what I understand, will actually be mintable in the future. So you could be the guy who literally just focuses on craft. You could be the armorer. You could be literally just be the guy who focuses on crafting the best armor and supplying that armor to other players through the Mavis marketplace. I think that's going to be, I think it's going to be incredibly exciting. Just to be, I'm gonna have the Mavis marketplace like on my second browser, on my second monitor, like 24/7, constantly refreshing to see if somebody else got that legendary item and listed it on the marketplace before I did. You know what I mean?
I have a question to everyone who's looking forward for the PvP system.
Right.
Would you like to see, like, what would be your favorite formation, like a 4 versus 4 formation, PvP, or more like 1 versus 1?
Yeah, I think that's a valid question too, and I definitely think like 4v4 is probably going to be the standard, right? I'm thinking for like social team-based stuff. But I could see like some sort of dueling too, right?
Yeah.
1v1s.
I could see 1v1s, 2v2s.
2v2s. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It'd be like 1v1s, 2v2s, and 4v4s. And in terms of format, what I would personally like is just arena, just so I could like spam it all day, you know, and be there with like and queue up for some sort of queue or arena. I do know in the white paper and in the Notion, they tease something along the lines of PvP leagues per season. So I am speculating that it's going to be some sort of like arena-based gameplay or something like that, or maybe even tournaments, right? Like some sort of I don't know, seeded tournament or something along the lines of like tournament plus league sort of thing.
Right. I'm really curious how it's gonna work. If it's gonna be, you know, like RuneScape. I think RuneScape had an arena. So if you wanted to do, I mean, they also had the wilderness, right? So that's two different avenues that it could go down. You could have like this sort of like wilderness based area where when you're there, maybe you can get really good loot. Maybe there's some strong monsters that drop great items, but maybe there are other players out there looking for some noobs to take home to destroy, ruin their first experience playing the game, and then take home whatever that they've managed to collect before they ran into the wilderness. Or is it going to be that type of thing where you have to travel to an arena and then sign up to compete in a PvP battle? Because they're both valid avenues. Daniel, obviously feel free to shut me down, but if there's anything that you could let us know about that, we'd be very grateful.
Yeah, feel free to leak us, you know, that's what I'm saying, you know. Like,
yeah, hold on, I'm just I had my lawyer here to leak us, brother.
Daniel's got like maybe two people standing like right behind his shoulders. with ballpoint pens on his sides, and then they add a little bit more pressure whenever he's going in the wrong direction.
Oh no, but don't worry. The fact that this is live means that they don't have to come here. They just have the, you know, the red dot aiming at my head, and they're just listening in. Everything's fine.
Daniel, drop two scale chests into my inventory if you're under threat.
Yeah, that way we'll know.
Just so we know. But no, Daniel, please let us know. Anything you can share, anything that can excite us, I think that would be super appreciated.
I really can't share anything at this point. Like, you know, this is a big development that we are doing with this project. So anything that we can share, we'll do it when it's ready. But like I said, one of the main focuses that we have, and I think this is like the broadest statement I can possibly give without, you know, getting in trouble, is that we know that we have many different types of players, like PvPers and hardcore players who really want to optimize the power of the builds and see just how far they can push their spells and their builds. They are one of many profiles of players for whom we want to build a place in this world, right? Like, it's always been a priority for us to make sure that whatever type of player you are, you can find engaging content in the game, and that has been and will continue being like part of our mission statement. So if you play this game, right, and you feel like, oh man, I see potential here for something that could really engage me, then you're probably on the right track. right? Like if you have a feeling about something that you would like to see in the game because you feel it would be appropriate for you as a player being part of the world, you're probably more right than wrong. That's all I can say at the moment.
No leaks. I'm flooding the 0.
we have both sides of the spectrum.
I get to keep my life.
Well, all for the better, because you guys have been doing good work, and we can't have Daniel over here seeing the end of his run. So, I think it's great. I think it's great that the team acknowledges that there are all like such a spectrum of profiles of players, all very interested in the game for different reasons. And if everyone's gonna get their slice of the cake, then that's something to look forward to, because I think some games might lean too much in one direction and tend to neglect the others. And so it's nice to hear that.
I'm gonna talk about another aspect that I am very excited for the future. This is something that Pacha actually brought up in my in the chat here, and that is the mounts and familiars. So if anyone in the stream is not aware, not during the OBT that we just had, but during the previous CBT, the prizes that you could win from the Font of Memory were called quantum gifts. And some of those quantum gifts were actually mounts and familiars that you can see right here on the Mavis Marketplace. And these are currently unrevealed. There's 3 separate tiers. There's the silver, the bronze, and the gold. And I personally am horribly excited to open up my gold mount and figure out what I am going to be riding on for the rest of the game. And I'm fairly confident, obviously this is pure speculation, I don't know for sure, but I'm fairly confident we are going to be getting at least the mounts. I don't know about the familiars, but at least the mounts with this with the full launch of the game. And the reason I think that is because we already have plenty of footage directly from the Forgotten Runiverse Twitter page of people running around on mounts. I'm gonna pull that up right here. I think we've seen 2 different mounts. There's like a chocobo type looking mount, and maybe something else. If you're watching on stream,
that too. Kagi did like a bit on it as well.
Oh yeah. He was playing as if they gave him early access, huh?
Yes. And I thought that I also saw those mounts, and like to kind of go along that is, I am super excited too. I think like every MMO needs a mount, especially like in a vast world, right? And since this is just like the test, like who knows how many more maps there are? Who knows if they take off the teleport feature and you actually have to go through warp portals. I know they did that right in Ragnarok, to where how you actually move through the maps is you actually had to walk. And you had to like go through these portals that go to the next map, and I think that would be interesting, because I think like the TP thing could be like some sort of like, if you have been into that map before and you've unlocked this like teleport stone, it's like your Kafra. You know what I'm talking about, Hill? Like the Kafra teleporting thing. So I think like, if there's some way to connect the world like that through like these warp portals from like end to end, and then traveling the world that way, and especially having a new player experience to where you do have to walk it, and you can't TP there until you found these teleporter stone rune looking wizard thingies, like I think it'd be super cool. Yeah, I think Kagi has it there, bro. He said something along the lines of like, oh my god, I got up. Yeah.
I just got it pulled up now.
I'm looking at your stream right now. Yeah, right
there.
Yeah,
right it's a little delayed. Yeah. It's a little delayed, but we got there.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and like, I'm sorry, there's a little bit of background noise, some construction happening, but then like my headspace went like when I saw these mounts on the bit, right? The first thing obviously is gonna be like move speed bonus, maybe, but then like I try to think deeper, and I look back to like Final Fantasy VII, where you had a different colored chocobos, which would allow you to traverse different types of terrain, right? So maybe you'd have a mount that was actually able to climb ledges, something that can go over water, something that can fly. Something that does a mixture of both, maybe an ultimate one that does everything. like made of the dragons, such as in the chest, as recently released. Who knows? Who knows, right?
Yep.
So I think there's a lot to be excited for. We'll just have to wait and see. We're not gonna pick Daniel's brain here too much because we already know he probably has like 3 laser pointers on him already.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're taking a break. They're taking a coffee break at the moment.
Oh, quick! Tell us!
Now, one thing that I can tell you, and this is just a tease, I know, but I just want to say for players who have been with us for some of the previous events, players who have been here from the start, when mounts come, you are gonna find a very nice surprise. That's all I can say at the moment.
Oh, come on!
Nice.
Yo, I cannot wait.
Yeah, and on this clip too that you're watching, right? It looks like this is like some sort of like the Stonehenge looking thing where like Dota and Elf J rule.
That's true.
Real quick, yeah.
That's
pause
true.
Quick,
that's a different area that I've not seen before.
Pause that. Right there.
Yo, we've got Bear Snake. We've got Dota.
Yeah. We've got like Bear Snake, Dota. All the other. I don't know everyone's PFP. I know it's like Bear Snake,
too.
Dota, Elf. I don't know who the triangle or the pyramid eye is. But yeah, this looks like some sort of like warp portal looking thing.
I'm pretty sure that's Bill Cipher from that one TV show. But go on.
It actually has been hinted, and I think this was during one of the other spaces where they were talking about land and how certain lands being in proximity of points of interest would be actually beneficial to their owner. So like if, for example, maybe this is a dungeon, maybe it's a summoning circle, maybe you got to do certain things to meet requirements, collect certain items, and you can summon like this mega boss that pops up over there, right?
Right. So if, what you're saying, if I can kind of jump off that, so like I own a homestead in the jungle biome. Now there's only 47 homesteads in the jungle biome, so it's not a huge area. And the jungle biome is actually way off to the bottom left corner of the map. Like, you pull up the mini map and you can teleport to the different areas. And you think that like that one area is like the map, but my jungle biome is literally on like the corner of the screen. It's all the way on the side, which means the map is much bigger than what we've currently seen in this OBT. And yeah, what I heard during this Twitter space is that you could have a dungeon in that biome. Like so the jungle area might not have a lot of other houses, it might not have a lot of other players, but maybe there's a dungeon in that jungle that drops some amazing loot, and maybe all the top players want to go to that jungle dungeon to farm that best loot, and maybe my homestead is right next to that dungeon, and I happen to know exactly what item they're farming from that dungeon, so I put up a gathering station on my plot for that resource that they need for that item. So while they're waiting to party up, they can gather resources for my plot, and maybe that comes around to benefit me somehow. Scratch their back, they scratch mine. I apologize, Hale. Feel free to take it back, but I wanted to.
Yeah, no. It's a great segue into like the size and just like the absolute vastness of the world. I sent you a link just now, Ryan. It was a tweet from Dota, from back in this was back in like 2023 in February, where they've got this massive screen of like grids of the maps, and like Logic knows what I'm talking about when he sees this thing. It's just like, yo, it's like I know exactly what this looks like. So I'm excited to be able to just kind of traverse the world, and like with these warp points and everything else, with the mounts.
Holy crap.
Maybe being absolutely necessary for you to reach certain areas safely, perhaps.
Yep.
Dude, I'm looking at this map now. This is incredible.
Yeah, this is that OG fucking MMO map to where you do have to travel and walk, where that's where the utility of mounts are, right?
Daniel, if I buy a physical version of the game, can I get a paper version of this map to hang on my wall, just like Elder Scrolls 4?
I can't say anything right now, but I can give you my personal account number. So,
I love that.
I'm gonna be creating a new studio here soon, Daniel. So I'll need some background art.
Yeah, I'll keep it in mind,
dude. This map is
imagine they put out a physical tapestry of like the world of Runiverse, and it's this map. Like no,
yeah.
you know the play mat for kids where it's at racetrack.
Yeah.
Right? Do that, but it's this.
Perfect. My gosh. Last thing I want to touch on a bit are just the familiars, and I just want to speculate a little bit. The familiars, they what purpose they're going to serve is very interesting to me. So the familiars, there's three different tiers, right? There's gold tier, and there's bronze tier, and then there's silver tier. But it goes even deeper. So if we go to gold tier here, and then we like zoom in and actually look at the text, you'll notice that this one says familiar 1. So this is a gold tier familiar 1. This is a gold tier familiar 2. So even within the gold tier, there's 2 different types. And then when you go down to, if you go look at bronze, there are 5 different types of these bronze familiars. So it's really got me thinking, what purpose could these serve? You know, if we look at the marketplace for Forgotten Runes marketplace, all the collections that belong to the Forgotten Runes IP. We can look at warriors, we can look at wizards, and one of the things that we see if we just look at these collections is that a lot of these NFTs already kind of have familiars on them. And so it is very curious. So it's like maybe go on, Hale. I'd love to hear what you have to say before I continue.
No, like my headcanon for these familiars is maybe they can be like AI companions that do tag along with you. Again, throwback to Ragnarok, we had the homunculus system, we had the mercenary system, and you know, these were characters that were NPCs, but then you could take them with you in battles. So like perhaps, you know, you're the type of player who's a bit more of a lone wolf. You're not really looking to party up too much. You don't really have a static. You play on your own time. Then, you know, maybe your familiar can tag along, and then it'll help out with these battles. Like Final Fantasy XIV did allow you to you had your mount of a chocobo, and you could actually spec them into either DPS, healer, or tank to complement your character. So, you know, these familiars in the quantum gifts, or perhaps in the future, the familiars that come along with some of the characters of the Runiverse, perhaps might fill that sort of gap. Now, you know, this is again headcanon where I can imagine them going. Warriors being a separate topic altogether. Personally, I think it's very difficult for me to imagine warriors slinging magic spells. So down the line, perhaps there'll be a separate class. Who knows? Perhaps initially they can be like AI companions who can party along with you. Who knows? But I think the beautiful thing about this whole bit and the taste of which the OBT has given us is it allows you to really just imagine where the game can go from here, because I feel like had the game been in a state where you just tell yourself, "What is that? Is there nothing more? Can I not expect anything else?" But here, you know, we're all very excited for what the future holds and what the team might bring.
Absolutely. You know, I'm just looking at the marketplace right now, and I actually just now discovered that there are 3D renders of these wizards. I did not know that this existed.
Oh man, there's more than just that. Hang on a second.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Ryan. I sent you a link. Plug your wizard in and look for the. I think it's the second to the last option. And
all right, I don't have a wizard of my own. I only have a warrior at the moment. Can I still do it with this? Can I still do it with the warrior?
I think they haven't fully completed the 3D rendering for the warriors just yet. You can throw mine in 1165.
1165.
Yeah.
No way. Yo, he's sick. GM. Yo, the Grimoire tag. How perfect is that?
Oh wait, you're on a different. Oh, there you go. On the broadcast.
Oh, I think it's just a little delayed.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really sick.
Yeah, so like they put this out some time ago, and so like these are fully rigged as well. It's been shared previously. Like they have these on Nifty Island. We saw some old footage, and it was super clean as well. So it's like the interoperability of like what is available, from the franchise is crazy.
When I look at this, I am my mind is exploding with potential. Personally, I love pixel art, and in terms of the Forgotten Runiverse game, I do not want them to pivot from that. I love the pixel art. It's extremely charming, and I love what the game is as it is. I would not want them to change it. But seeing these 3D renders, I can't help but think about Fortnite. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like the trend nowadays is interoperability, especially in Web3. And we see games now that are allowing you to play with your NFT character within their game. Like you have Pixels, where you can actually play as a kaiju NFT. If you own a kaiju, even though there's no affiliation, they've just programmed it to be to be versatile like that. So I'm looking at these 3D models. You're saying they're fully rigged. I'm thinking, is there a future where we're going to be able to play with our wizards and gaming experiences outside of just Forgotten Runiverse?
I believe there already are. I do know one community member was asking about permissions and whether or not they could allow users to connect their wallets and then use their wizards in, I think it was like an FPS game. So again, like I guess that's really the beauty of things being on the blockchain that's referenceable and verifiable that you are the owner. Kind of the key that allows you to unlock access to different features and utilities. But let's not stray too far away from our beloved MMO. What else do we have, Ryan? I feel like we've had like such a wonderful conversation for this past. We're coming on the 2 hour mark here.
We are, dude. It's just been flowing. We have
it just flew. It
just flew by. We still have more planned for today. We wanted to do a spell tier list, and we also need to go through the submissions of the Grim Bear Challenge. I am definitely. I just want to say, like, you guys don't feel pressured to stay here. If you have time sensitive schedules, you guys need to get anywhere. Feel free to speak up.
Now that you've mentioned, okay, so and I don't have this opportunity often, and Daniel, please, if you'll indulge me with this question. So with regards to spell tier list, and as you've said earlier, how design-wise we want to avoid excessive overlap, where I believe the word is just going to be strictly better, where a spell is strictly better than something else. We want to avoid that because in certain situations, I think game mechanics, dungeon gimmicks, anything else, maybe PvP metas, will cause players to look back across the entire tome of spells available to them and explore and combine what might be like a very good loadout to work with. Something, and this is a personal, maybe take as a feedback. Some of the earlier spells do tend to fall behind when it comes to the stats that they are given. And in my head, I was thinking that if there would be something along the lines of like unlimited versions of these spells where perhaps they're like level capped, or I forget the exact word, where it's like rebalanced to a certain specific point, so that at least stat-wise they can compete with things that you receive later while still providing that same spell effectiveness. Or would you say that the spells are designed with that in mind already, where Firebolt, being the Firebolt it is, intentionally has lesser stats because it's, as a spell, good enough by effect?
Okay, so to tackle that question, I think that I need to go a bit into the lore and the mechanics of the spells and the crystals, right? Because there is a very important distinction. And this is, like, I apologize if I get into too much of a technical detail, but there is a partition between what is a crystal and what is a spell, right? In the game, when your character is enchanting a crystal, from the lore perspective, what they're doing is that they are imbuing this crystal with a certain memory of the past inside of the world, right? And that memory is what lets them channel and manifest the magic that turns into the spell, right? But the important part here is that the crystal itself is a container for a spell. Therefore, the stats that you get, they are tied to the crystal. At the moment right now, you see that all spells in the game have their own crystal, and as you say, some have different stat spreads or even bigger stat spreads with greater bonuses, right? So I, as you know, can't really get into much detail, but knowing that these spells are something the players are going to interact with from the start of the game until the end, the viability of using all spells, right, in your future builds when your character has reached higher levels is 100% a priority for us. Like, it is something that we have in mind, and I can't go into detail about the system that we have set in place, but giving you the option to not only have access to more spells, but to also have access to your old spells is something that is on the top of our list.
Oh man, I love the answer, and please never apologize for going through the technicalities or the lore of it, because that's so cool to hear every single time. So that's such a good answer for it. Thank you, Daniel, for indulging my question.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful. So to start out this tier list, I think what we should do is establish ourselves with deciding the best spell and worst spell, and then we can kind of work in between from there. But I do want to come out obviously and say that give a quick disclaimer and say that this is obviously very subjective. As Daniel has said, there's not really a lot of overlap. Each one of these spells really does serve a specific purpose, and depending on your playstyle, you can find use with all of these spells. But considering the fact that during this OBT, what we had to deal with was mainly just mobs, the versatility of the builds that we saw probably not as extreme as what we're going to see when PvP is around. So just keep in mind that our experience here during this OBT is not totally reflective of what the full game is going to be. With that being said, is it safe to say that Volatile Gambit S tier?
I mean, it's a powerhouse of a spell. The drawback being damaging yourself through burn. And in my opinion, like, again, speaking as like a Magic player, it's like if you're just telling me that I'm losing HP for gains, then that's not really a drawback, because the only HP that matters is the last one. So right. I see Volatile Gambit as definitely like an S tier spell.
Wonderful. Now, what would be a D tier spell? I'm thinking there's a couple of them that I think like never ever got used, right? At least not by me. I don't know. I can't speak on everyone's behalf, but like Blessing of the Beasts, for example.
I'm gonna say, and it's only a testament to how much I didn't use the spell. I think it was it's that second one, the one that dispels. I tried to use it, right? I tried to make it work. It deals hybrid damage. It has a chance to dispel, and I was fighting a boss, I forget which, had this tendency to buff itself quite often. I was thinking, wouldn't it be real smart to bring something that could dispel it, and it just never did. At least not as much as I'd liked it to. So at least as it performed, I found it to be quite lacking against the other cantrip options.
This was a cantrip. Is it the destructive rune? Small chance to debuff them based on their HP.
Yeah, it's the purple one. That's the one.
Yeah,
and it's like that's just how much I didn't use it, because the name has escaped me, unfortunately.
It's I think it's destructive rune. Yeah,
destructive rune. Yes.
There you go.
I think this.
I'm so sorry, and Daniel, I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. Like, just before we started this, I was talking to Ryan because, as we have stated, this is a group effort, but every member on the team has like their specialization, And on my side, it's like spells are kind of my area, right? And so when we were talking about this, and I knew that this was coming up in my head, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a spectator because I don't want to impart any bias onto you guys when you're ranking the spells. But I did have my candidates, like my personal candidates of what do I think they're gonna rate as the best spell. And I'm glad to know that I 100% nailed that Volatile Cantrip was gonna be at the top of the list.
Oh, we like DPS, man. We like DPS. So yeah, absolutely. Volatile Gambit's right up there. So Hale, I think that might be a good contender. But chat just came in and hit me with the Stolen Swiftness play for D tier, and I'm not gonna lie, Stolen Swiftness for me was a bit of a letdown.
So my experience with Stolen Swiftness, I think in a large party setting, because of how it's random on whom it is given to, that's kind of what makes it very difficult to use. When I was in a duo with Nyx, Stolen Swiftness was amazing because it would always go to him. I'm not sure if ally in the sense as it's written did not include myself, because when I was using some of the other spells, and it said ally, I'd only sometimes get certain buffs. So I'm not sure what the technicalities are there. But in a team setting, Stolen Swiftness does leave a bit to be desired. In a duo, as we used it, it was very good. So I think like I'd maybe put it at B or C worst case. I feel like there's ways to make it better, but I don't hate the idea that spells are good in certain situations, in certain compositions.
I actually really liked the idea of Stolen Swiftness. It was a spell that when I first saw its description, it literally sent butterflies in my stomach, because the idea of maybe giving up a little damage, but in return, like gaining so much speed over the enemy just seemed so enticing in the way that I thought I'd be able to combine that with other speed spells to just like really just be spamming attacks 24/7. I don't know. It never. I'm gonna be honest. Every time I used it, I couldn't even perceive of a difference. And but you're telling me that your experience was definitely different.
I'd say like in as far as like the OBT was concerned, there wasn't a lot of places to use it. Unless you were running a duo, then it was good. Even solo, I think you wouldn't even hit the haste on yourself that often. If you were just using it to advance yourself forward, then that was all right, because like you could do something like reckless, stolen, gambit, just to kind of get back to the gambit as quickly as possible.
Right. Now, I think in PvP, it's going to be so much more interesting because you have the potential of slowing down a PvP opponent.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, a damage DPS opponent.
Yeah, but I guess like in the context of the OBT, I'd put it at C, maybe. I would call it D, because like it has some ways to be played, but it's not like outright I'd never play this ever.
If it's only playable in a duo sense, though, I don't know. We'll put tentative C tier for now. Sure. Half-Blood, what is your perspective on a D tier spell?
Well, I mean, a couple of things here. I just want to quickly go into the draft force, the Stolen Swiftness. It's actually a better version of the spell named, let me see, Rite of the Storm. Because Rite of the Storm and Draft Force are actually good spells. Because you actually don't care to hasten a random ally. What you want is to slow an opponent down and grant yourself a speed boost. And this can come relevant in PvP, because you can see if your opponent is in front of you or behind of you regarding the attack speed, you know? So if you want to have like a final strike on him, Draft Force is a better option than the other spell, because it has a cooldown of 3. So I wouldn't underestimate the power of hasten yourself. Yeah, this is like a take for me.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't put draft spell into a D tier. I would say it's like between B and C. It depends. I mean, it's not that great in a PFP, sorry,
PvP,
PFE environment,
PvE, yeah.
more as in a PFP. But my question is the wording and the descriptions of both
Same.
spells.
I have the same question as well.
Drain the speed, exactly. Drain the speed. Is this the same as when I see the spell Chilling Breath? It says slow enemies. So does it mean that Drain the Speed is more powerful than like using a spell that uses the word like slow enemies down? Like if I used Stone Swiftness, does the opponent get slowed down more like heavily or the same as when I use Chilling Breath? This is what I really want to know.
Right.
I'm guessing the question is directed to this side, or
yeah, exactly.
There's like a few areas where we're always looking to find new ways to communicate to players, mechanics and effects. And one of the things that we do is that whenever you see a word that is fully capitalized and repeated throughout different spells and mechanics, it's referring to a status effect. As you know, in the encampment, we have an NPC that showcases the whole breadth of status effect that we have in the game, and slow is one of them. So slow, what it does is that when it's applied to an entity, be it a player or an enemy, their action speed is lower, so it's gonna take longer for them to fully start their bar. When we're talking about draining speed, we're talking about an effect that we call exhaust, where you are literally cutting down the bar that they have, so they move back in the action bar. And if you accelerate yourself, which is what you're doing when you're draining the speed from an enemy, then you're moving up. So it is an immediate effect. It's not like a prolonged status that affects the entity through many turns. When you're draining the speed, it is an immediate effect where you and the enemy are basically exchanging positions in the action bar.
So I want to correct myself. In PFP, this is S tier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
PvP. PvP is a different story. We're mainly referring to our experiences with the spells during the OBT.
Oh, okay, then D.
Yeah. What about what other spell? What other spell would you put into D tier?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Draft Force and what's the other one? Ride the Storm, because it's actually almost the same. Ride the Storm is maybe E tier, you know, because of the stagger effect you put on yourself. Other than that, I'm not sure if there's any other D tier.
It's an interesting one. You know, I haven't really thought about it since I haven't actually thought about this spell since like day one, because I feel like I haven't played with it since day one. But it's an interesting one because it hastens yourself, so you speed up, but then you get staggered. So the amount that you speed up, it like barely breaks even, or maybe it goes a little bit further, but it feels like it just barely breaks even when you compare to how much you got staggered.
I had the same thought about it initially, but then I came to the realization that stagger wasn't actually like stagger, like slow yourself down, but stagger is when you take more damage.
Oh, right.
No, I'm right there with you, Ryan. That was my first thought when I read the spell the first time. I was like, stagger. So it's like I'm staggering, like I'm slowing down, I'm kind of getting pushed back. But then, like, if you have the opportunity to, like, talk to the NPC who tells you all about it, stagger apparently is like...
it's like you're getting weak. You're taking more damage.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I feel like I remember myself jumping backwards when I use it.
It's basically Berserk, right? It's basically a Berserk spell. Ride the Storm is basically Berserk yourself. Like, go faster, do more damage, but you also take more damage.
More damage. You're turning yourself into a glass cannon. So, so in this situation, so you you're getting faster. You're going to be more powerful. So your next attacks are going to be strong.
GM.
But GM, we are doing a live stream, the very first Grimoire live stream. For anyone just funneling in.
Yeah.
So what was I saying? You're gaining speed, you're gaining damage, but you're sacrificing damage just to get there.
You're taking damage. You're taking more damage. I think this would be
taking damage, and you're sacrificing another attack, is what I mean. You're sacrificing potential DPS from another spell just to make your next spell a little bit more powerful.
Yeah, I guess like I mean, if you're running Gambit, for example, right, and like there's not a lot of spells that deal as much damage as Gambit. So like because Hasten and Power and Stagger all have 3-turn durations, you can basically have it up all the time. So, like, you can just ride the storm figuratively and literally the entire fight to maintain, like, hasten and empower on yourself throughout, and then just focus on maybe, like, one power spell, like Gambit or the Ice Spear or, like, the Contract.
Yeah.
Instead.
Dude, are you guys talking about the Night to Remember skill?
Welcome in, Nix. Yeah, the ride the storm, the one that hastens, empowers, and staggers.
Dude, that's the best skill. Like literally, I use that solo. Maybe that's the right time to endorse the skill.
Dude,
I will.
that's what I'm saying.
Below
All right,
S.
I think we figured it out. I think we figured out every spell goes into S tier. That's what it is.
It is broken. No, like... it is a broken skill. So Hale and I ran that because he tanks, so I do not feel the negative effects of stagger. So I think in a proper setup, it is way overpowered.
Yeah, Nyx literally did not have a cooldown bar. He was just like cast.
How long do the effects last?
3 turns.
3.
Oh, so it's 100% uptime because it's a 4-turn cooldown.
Okay. Interesting stuff. I'm convinced to move it up from D tier.
And Nyx, since you just came in, I will say Daniel here is from the dev team. So before you call anything broken, think twice about it.
Yeah.
Actually, no, don't think about it at all. Just say it. It is a pleasure for me to hear this debate around spells.
Daniel, this spell is garbage. Make it 10.
No, but it is funny because Ride the Storm was actually part of one of the first meta builds that we had in previous events. Like Ride the Storm alongside the old version of Sum Attack, they used to be one of the most powerful combinations in the game.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know for a fact somewhere out there is the profile of players who just want to go fast. You know, they want to
absolutely
see their character just shoot straight through the ATB bar and bam, 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 bam. You know.
Yo, I can see maybe these 3 spells being on a build with Amber Guard armor maybe. And the whole build is just speed up and throw Gambit out every 2 seconds.
I'm calling it now. By the time we're at the end of this tier list, we would have developed maybe 10 different builds.
I believe it.
Anyway, so I think let's try to.
Well, that's what I'll say about that skill because I've used it extensively in the last few days of the OBT. So it's really great for people who want to solo and have high damage output because you do not really feel the effects of stagger because by the time you will most of the matches your HP will go orange, sometimes red, but you will never die because you kill the boss so fast anyway. So it's a nice for solo players as well.
Right.
So I kind of want to defend why I put Ride the Storm in D tier.
All right, but we gotta speed up after this. So after you defend the next topics, let's try to jump through a little bit faster.
I mean, just real quick, I think still that Storm Swiftness is much better because if it's true that using Storm Swiftness makes you faster and the opponent gets a push back, you can literally hit him twice in one turn, basically. That means that the empowerment of Rite of the Storm is weaker than using an attack spell twice in a turn, basically. And since Stolen Swiftness has only a cooldown of 3 instead of 4, it's already much better because you can use it quicker.
Yeah.
So this is
Okay,
my comparison again.
I'm not gonna rebut. I'm not gonna rebut, but like I just wanna like so I see his point of view, which is actually crazy because like it's super different from mine. Like for me, Stolen Swiftness is the most garbage skill in the game, as I've tried to use it. But I see what you mean, and I think it depends on like maybe the kind of play style each person wants. But like for me, it's just interesting to me that is like you put it in a high regard, and then like you don't like the other one, and then like for me like it's the complete opposite. I'm not gonna rebut. Maybe we need a separate video for like in-depth things like this, but go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to
I'll close that out and just say, like, I think this is what's really cool about it, where players can just have like their own perspectives, and like they might just be making it work differently, you know, like you might just have like a different build where you're making it work. Right?
That is what I'm starting to discover, because I come in with this idea of a spell being a certain way, and then immediately someone else in VC is like, no, that's not my experience with that spell at all. And I have people in chat here on stream that are saying, no, I love that spell. It's so great for this and this and that. So I think it really does come down to play style, especially with what Daniel said earlier with how they really thought about crafting these spells and balancing everything. They didn't want spells to basically become useless. They didn't want a spell that you find in level 1 to be overpowered by a spell that you find when you're level 10. You know, every spell has its utility, and it is. Yeah, it's starting to make itself more apparent here now.
I mean, Nix is totally correct. I mean, it depends, of course, what you're aiming for and what works for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's totally right. I'm just saying, like, from a technical perspective, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's maybe like less powerful than the other spell, but he is right. It depends on his build. It depends on if you are alone or if you are, you know, in a team. So, you know,
all right.
If he has a tank, then yeah, right.
I think I have
is better.
I think I have my choice for D tier baseline, and that is Turning Point. What is it? Fallen Grace? Is that?
It's the spell that you take from Larissa. Yeah, that's the one.
Yes. So this one is bless an ally and give them a number of buffs based on their health. Dying allies will get a very high heal. I highly despise the spell. First off, a number of buffs. So
Trash.
it's random buffs. You don't know how many numbers you're getting. It could be one, it could be more than one. What buffs are they? Do you need the buffs, or are they meaningless buffs? Completely random. Then you don't even get the heal unless they're like already in the red. I don't think I've ever found a single utility for this spell. This is the one spell that I think we can ultimately and decidedly put in D tier without controversy.
No, I disagree, Ryan. It's not D tier.
Gosh.
Put it in rect. Put it in rect. It is trash. I tried to use it. I tried to feel cool for a bit, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? I add 0 value, and I just wanted to delete that spell completely.
Oh, I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry, Daniel. This is the spell that I think we can all agreeably rag on today.
I mean,
I'm gonna be the strange one here and say I really wanted to get this spell, but that's also only because I'm the only person who probably like really pushed like in the tank direction. Because often like I would just kind of hold the line until my HP was down, and I had to put up with what was the first heal we got? It was Invigorating Blossom.
Yes.
Right. So I did that for a little bit, where I just like tank, HP goes under 25, pop the Blossom. and then like go about my business again. And I was kind of hoping to upgrade Blossom with Turning Point in that regard. But again, like I never got it because Desire Sensor. I got Gambit in like 3 runs together with someone who's hunting it for 3 days. So, and I'm not new to the Desire Sensor. I played a lot of Monster Hunter, so it is what it is. But yeah, for the purposes of the OBT, I don't see a lot of purpose for it, especially with how few people actually played in my playstyle. And my playstyle wasn't even necessary for this experience.
If I can jump in for a second, and sorry, go ahead.
Just real quick, maybe I'm wrong, but if I'm reading this correctly, it says dying allies will get a very high heal. So basically, if you use it on turn 1, you can actually guarantee that all your allies, when they reach almost 0, they get a big buff ahead. So you're basically using this spell to have an effect in the future, which can be.
I don't think that's right. I don't think.
I think
this is a question I want to ask if this is a correct understanding of the spell.
My guess here is dying just means under 25% or in the red.
Yeah,
because
that won't be correct.
Yeah, because like we have some spells that say 50%, 25%. Some spells say wounded and dying. I think these are the same things, and it's just maybe not, across the board like copyrighted just yet. But then dying would be 25% if I'm not mistaken.
Dude, my biggest problem with this Grace of Default, this spell, is that I was always tempted to just ask the devs if this was if it was bugged, because like it says like you get a number of buffs, but the only buff I've ever seen was regen, right? Like if you cast it like anytime it gives you regen, you gain 100 HP, 100 HP for a few turns, and then like it has this inconsistent heal where like, oh, you need to be maybe red, and then you get the 1000 plus heal. Maybe if your wisdom's higher, you get higher, but then you also have a lesser skill that has a more consistent heal and a quicker cooldown. So I was literally tempted to ask, like, is this broke? Are there buffs that are not reflecting? So since Daniel's here, is it broken, or is it just really kind of underwhelming for Larissa Boss?
So here's the deal with the spell, and I apologize if I'm taking too much time with this, but it's a very quick explanation. So when we have the colors of the wizards, right? We have 5 colors. We have the red, the yellow, the green, the blue, and the brown, who have very distinctive play styles and philosophy behind them. But then we have 2 other colors, which are the white and the purple. And the way from a design standpoint that I look at them when we design the spell is that they are 2 very different sides of a same coin, where they both deal with these quote-unquote random effects because of their philosophies. Like the purple mages, the purple wizards have this view of the chaos and the entropy of the universe, right? That is very integral to their philosophy and their spell, while the white wizards, they have this deep relation with fate and destiny. So in a spell like Turning Point, and this is something that we're continually evolving, the way we express to players what this does is, okay, how much information do we put here on the table, here in the description for you to know, and how much do we want for you to discover? This is, of course, an evolving process. In the case of Turning Point, it actually has the highest healing potential of all healing spells in the game. The thing is, you have to discover exactly how to trigger that, and it is in the wording of it, where when you cast this on an ally, there is a base blessing that it gives, which is regen, but then as the ally goes up or down in how much HP they have, it would give them a different set of buffs. Like it is quote-unquote random, but it is decided by just how much HP your ally has.
Oh, so that wasn't actually clear. That wasn't actually clear because like I thought like you would like, so I've been experimenting where I've been trying to cast it like at different HP levels of a person. I was expecting a buff and I was never getting anything. So you're saying is the buff activates like at some point depending on where his HP lands. Is that correct?
You cast it on an ally, and depending on how much HP they have on the moment that you cast it, they get a different effect from the spell. Not all effects are just a status that have an icon to them. Like we have some effects, for example, like Shield, which is a mechanic in the game that doesn't have an icon associated with it, so sometimes it is easy to miss it. But Shield is one of the effects that it can actually give to your ally depending on how much health they have.
Okay, that sounds more interesting then. Like I think it's not like visible or like maybe hard to understand, like just based on the wording and what you see on the visual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does it mean that like dying allies will get a very high heal only activates if I use the spell when they are at 25%?
Yes.
25 or under.
Red HP basically, because you go from green to orange to red.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, it's a very diversified spell. You know,
Okay, I'm gonna be that guy so Ryan doesn't have to. We're gonna have to push things along.
Yeah, we're gonna start pushing things along here. We've got the Ice Spear, high damage magical attack.
S.
What?
S
tier. Yes, S tier. I thought you said ass for a second. I was
no,
what are you talking about?
Tier.
and since we have a dev here, I feel like the biggest injustice in the game is that we never got a high magic damage that is like a rare tier, you know? I kind of felt salty about that because it was endgame and I'm still using a blue freaking spell that I got for free in the training session.
Well, think about it from my perspective, Nix. The whole first week, I was like, where's my big physical damage spell? I have nothing I can use. And then Gambit comes along, and now you're like, well, hey, what about my magic, huh? So if you were on the it was the script was flipped for the first week.
Yeah. It was cool. Like I love that spell. Like I think it's super basic, and the fact that it's accessible for everyone, and it gives people like the sense of like, oh, I have a powerful spell. Like I think it's really good and well deserved for S in my opinion.
Yeah. This one's gonna be interesting. Violent Dismissal. We found I think for the most part, people did not use this spell. I think a lot of people found that if they're not getting great utility, if they're not seeing that big damage marker when they use it for the first, then they're like, well, what did this do? And they stop using it in the future.
I'm going to say A, only because of the conditional nature of it. So like S for me is like, I will play this spell all the time on off cooldown, right? That's just my... Violent Dismissal is very interesting with how it behaves differently depending on the HP of your opponent. So you could actually do like a dismissal into Gambit while they're above 50% just to kind of get that stagger bonus damage. And then like as they dip under, then Dismissal becomes a DPS spell on its own, right?
Right.
And then the confusion that it adds on top, which is guaranteed if I'm not mistaken, can be good, but against bosses, not as much because it basically makes them attack randomly. But if it's a 4v1, there's a higher chance they hit someone from your side anyway. So my headspace is A to B.
I'd say B. I think Half-Blood has higher, but like I'd say B. But I'm not mad at A. But like, yeah, go ahead, guys.
I would say it's like between S and A, because I think this is like a great finisher, especially when you cast it at the right moment. I usually cast this when I see red, because it makes more damage. I like that you can also use it as a stagger in the beginning of the battle. I remember like soloing some bosses, and I always used Violent Dismissal first to get like an extra amount of damage in the beginning, and then use it as a finisher later after cooldown. So I think it's like borderline between. I mean, it's more towards A, but it's very, very close to S here.
Yeah, it's a very versatile spell. It has a decent effect at an early game when they're full health. Has a great, decent effect as well when they're below 50%, and then just massive damage when they're in that red. So very versatile. It is good.
But can I? I'm very sorry. It's almost it's 5:30 a.m. here, and I'm very, very tired. And
Half-Blood, no worries, brother. Take care of yourself.
I'm very struggling to stay up, but before I go, maybe I can throw a A tier and another D tier into the room, and then I excuse myself and
Sounds
let
good.
you guys.
What have you got?
Yeah, so as D tier, I think the Wheel of Chaos is because there's a chance that you cast a spell and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And that's really bad. I'm not sure if this is right on Runiverse Wiki that the only guarantee buff of this Wheel of Chaos, like 100%, is shield. I'm not sure if this is true. But the other 50% chances are like, you can hit 0%.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually with you with Wheel of Chaos in D tier because personally I don't like to leave anything up to luck.
Yeah,
Dude,
but
not when it comes to a video game.
Dude, can I disagree with you? Can I disagree with you guys? But
sure.
I will accept the D tier because you're all correct. But I think it is one of the coolest and most fun spells in the game. Just from a visual.
For sure.
I feel like it should be C at least. Like make it C, dude. Like I feel like D should be like purely trash. I'm trying to persuade you.
Mathematically, your chances of failing like 50% chances in a row is like 6.25%. So it's like if you miss everything, that's just bad luck.
Just quit.
Right,
just quit
but even then, like it's like well, why are you using it? Oh, I'm using it because I want to accelerate all the allies. Oh, you didn't get accelerate, you got regen, but it's turn 1, so you're not healing anything. It's just like I get it. I think every game has a spell or an attack like this, and it is very fun. But in terms of like competition, in terms of consistency, I think it's D tier. Absolutely.
It is a fun spell.
Hey,
I mean,
all I'm saying is, oh sorry, finish. Sorry, Fastball, go ahead.
I can see this spell maybe useful in the recent Dire Bear run, because you have to go through so many runs that maybe you can get like a hit on everything, and maybe this can benefit you in your
exactly. I was about to say
why did you do that.
I was about to say imagine down the line you're in a PvP tournament, it's the finals, last match point, and your opponent pulls out the Wheel of Chaos and hits you with the quad for the third one.
Oh my god, come on.
Okay, so it's not D tier. It's not D tier. You have to put it up at C because it's not totally useless and it's fun. Give it some points for being fun, bro.
Let's do C minus. Let's do C minus.
We'll go C minus. All right, Half-Blood, what was your S tier suggestion?
I would say A tier. Let's say A tier. I don't want to be too optimistic, but I think Thorned Gift is one of the most brilliant spells because it can literally buy you 1 turn of damage when you hit the charm, on top of the passive damage of bleed and poison, of which bleed is like the most powerful passive debuff.
This is the thorny rose, right? The flower.
Yes, exactly.
The flower, exactly. Yeah.
I love that spell. I love that spell.
Yeah, so
the charm effect can be so powerful, especially if there's only one opponent, because there's 100% guarantee that he is going to hit himself. I think this spell was a crucial spell in the recent challenge. I think with enough testing from our side, from our Grimoire team, I think that would have been like one of the best spells to use.
It's I mean, I think the testament to the spell is the fact that you can basically do a full sustain build where you're just healing and sustaining yourself, and your only damage spell is this. I mean, you basically don't play damage spell. You just play Thorned Gift, a bunch of heals, and a Cantrip, and you can basically solo almost every boss in the game with that.
Yeah, dude. I love this spell. I agree. Like, it's A. I just wanted to say that this is one of the spells that I used to solo Storm King, so it is really, really good.
Yes. It's so. I mean, it takes a long time, but it's so satisfying to win with this.
The tempo swing from Charm is insane. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Let's move on to
let's say A plus. Okay, guys. Thank you, Rain, for having me.
Of course.
It was a real pleasure, and good night.
You have a good night, Half-Blood. Rest well. You deserve it.
Bye, guys. Bye,
guys. Next up is Shattered Crystal. This is an AoE magic-based damage attack that applies bleed to all enemies. And I want to put this in A tier as well. Any contest?
Did you say? What did you say?
This is A tier for Shattered Crystal.
I would agree. I use that a lot, and I think it's a fair. Like, I can't put it at S, and it's too good for B. So it's too good for B. So I think A is fair.
Right. Moving right along to another magic-based damage AoE, we have Chilling Breath, and I'm thinking that this is the first B tier applicant. So you're still getting the AoE damage, but the effect of slow, it just seems so. I feel like I'm only gonna want to use it in very specific circumstances. You know, you don't finish the match by slowing them down. You finish them by dealing damage. You get more damage through the bleed on this one. This one, I feel like it's you only use it for like maybe one specific enemy, or maybe to counterplay a team if you're doing PvP in the future.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I feel like there are better AoE options.
Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Sorry. I thought I was muted, bro. So here's my opinion on this spell, because it is the spell alongside the Ice Spear that I've used since CBT.
Oh, Chilling Breath.
Yeah, the AoE, right?
Yep.
So here's the problem. Like, if I'm being completely honest, the spell is not good. Like, it deals low magical damage, and the slow is kind of not really felt, especially since you already have Ice Spear and like the water gun, right? In my build.
Right.
So the only value, like, I would honestly put it at D, if not for the fact that it has
the slow.
So high intelligence. No, it gives you so high intelligence that it boosts your entire build. It is literally one of the worst spells in the game, but the stats that it give you make you a much stronger wizard. So, like, for that reason alone, it is B. But if it did not give those stats, it is literally D for me.
Yeah, I feel you there. I think we can comfortably keep it in B unless there's a contention.
Yep.
Now let's move on to one that I actually never used at all. This is Fractal Fortune. Accelerate shield and ward an ally. What are we thinking about this one? Did anyone have the opportunity to use this spell?
Yeah, I ran in the build I played when I was doing a duo with Nyx. I ran Fractal Fortune together with what's the other one? Hang on, give me a second here. Noble Offering. Just to kind of push him forward each time. So I basically had like Stolen Swiftness, give him the haste, and the 2 acceleration spells, all of which had a 3-turn cooldown, so I was on a perfect rotation. And it was a very interesting experience because I actually had to intentionally not play off cooldown because I was lining up my casts together with Nyx's ATB bar just so that I didn't accidentally send them like all the way to the end of the bar, right? So it really mattered when the spell was casted, like the amount of time it took for the spell to connect, just kind of min-max on that. And Nyx was absolutely flying. Like he just did not have any cooldowns. So again, I think like because it's targeted and you can choose who to buff, if had the content required more diverse party compositions where maybe you have a tank, maybe you have a support, and then 2 DPS, I can see a world where these acceleration spells would come in handy, especially because I think one of them has the cleanse and regen, and then Fractal Fortune is the ward and the shield. So there's definitely a future where these spells can do better. But then for the purposes of the OBT, I'd comfortably put them maybe at like C.
C tier. Yeah. What was the other one that you mentioned in the same breath?
It was the Martyr's Tale, the noble offering, the one that looks like a razor blade.
Ah, right. So cleanse, regen, and accelerate.
Yeah, I had like very interesting experience with that where I didn't always get like the buff on myself, and I thought maybe this is only work on allies, like not me allies. So I'm not sure if that was supposed to be 100% thing. Maybe it's a bug. I wasn't able to capture it, unfortunately. So, well, I mean, Daniel's in here, but I don't want to I don't drop work on his head like right now. We're just having a chat.
Don't worry, I have all my data open at the moment. Like as we're speaking, I'm nerfing everything that you guys liked.
Just no! So all right, Gambit's really bad. Not enough damage. Ice Spear, just this, it's the same.
No, but
all right.
Seriously, if I can get a really quick shout out to our programming team, they are wizards. Like they are the most wizards out of all of us because the tools that they gave us, the speed that they enable for us to balance and correct and fix things is amazing. Like honestly, working on balance for the game has been such a smooth ride thanks to their work. So shout out to my people in the programming team.
Yeah,
big shout out.
Always good to have something that's very dynamic that allows for quick iterations and like on the fly, just be like, yeah, you know what, I don't like 12, we'll make it 10. And then like, because it's a web game where we don't have to issue patches and new versions, it's just like, well, there it goes, it's live. So I think that's wonderful.
Have you guys talked about drink break? I went on AFK for a bit.
No, we haven't gotten to drink break yet, but we can jump on it now.
Okay. All right. But what spell were you guys talking about just now?
We were talking about Noble Offering and at the same time Fractal Fortune.
Yeah, the 2-3 cost accelerates.
Oh.
Like, they have a place, but then for the purposes of the OBT, you had better things that you could play.
Okay.
Yeah, but what about Workers' Rest? Because I think we all have strong feelings about this one. I am tempted to put it in. I'm actually tempted to put it all the way in S tier.
I'd say S, but only like in the context of like one guy brings it and not all, maybe not all four.
One guy brings it and it sustains the whole team. No need for a healer. For like PVE,
the amount
it's golden.
Yeah, the amount of like value it has by affecting the entire team is so good. And like the downtime, because like all these buffs are like, I think they're 3 turns each, so it's like you get like a downtime of maybe 2, so you wouldn't want to bring more than 2 on your team anyway. So with a cooldown of 5, it kind of makes it funky. So like just the 1 is fine to kind of keep everyone alive until the fight's over anyway. And that was generally my experience, because like Drink Break was one of my mainstay spells. So I could say I put it in an S. It's always nice to have at least one. You can't really go wrong. Unless you're doing like a speed run where everyone's doing DPS.
Exactly. Nyx? I guess we lost Nyx. No worries.
Oh.
You had thoughts about? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my thoughts is that honestly, if you guys have 1 minute to pitch me what it does, because I literally tried it and I'm confused why when I use it sucks, but when my teammates use it, like everyone's raving about it. So what exactly does it do, bro? I literally don't know.
It accelerates the whole team, so the whole team starts moving faster than they were before. That by itself is huge. It also provides shield to everybody, so the next incoming attack is either going to be negated or much less. And then on top of that, it also provides regenerate. So it's not an instant heal, but all players start passively healing throughout like the next 4 rounds. So
as a minor, oh sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I'm done.
Oh no, I was gonna say as a minor correction, accelerate being the effect where your ATB bar is pushed forward.
You don't speed up. You're pushed
and that's
forward.
why.
My apologies.
Yeah, and that's why it's so good to open the fight with Drink Break, because at that time players are sort of still in sync on their position in the ATB bar, and like as the person carrying it, you're usually slower than them anyway. So like you don't really risk like sending someone to the end of the bar, so you always get like that full value out of it.
Got
yeah.
it. Alright. So it's really good spell, but like you need to build your build around it, right? Like it can't just be DPS and then you brought it for kicks and giggles.
No,
It's not really. Okay, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why
That's probably why in your experience it wasn't very good, because it was basically setting you back on stats. It was like one less DPS spell for you. It really is something that you want like your dedicated support or tank to be carrying instead, because it's AoE anyway. It's a party buff. And I feel like it's really good. Like, it really ties back to the fact that like stats are tied to your spells as well. So like it really solidifies the importance of like rolls and like loadouts.
I like it. Yeah, it just wasn't for me, but every time like someone else uses it, I like it. Like I was just like perplexed on why I suck when I use it myself. But yeah.
All right, let's move on to Fate Reversal, and I think I want to put this one in B tier as well. It is a hybrid damage attack. No, it's a magic damage attack. It deals damage to a random enemy, and then it heals a random ally. Now, I would normally I would probably put this in D or C tier, but actually I think this has a lot of potential when everybody in a team is using it. So then, you don't necessarily get to decide who you heal. It's a random heal. It's a random ally. But if everyone's using it, then there's a bit more consistency there, in terms of like sustaining yourself against a large fight. And it's also really good in single player matchups. So if it's just you and a mob or you and another player in a PvP situation, you're always gonna be hitting the target, and you're always gonna be healing yourself. So it's not quite a true random. I think it has some actual potential. I think it's a B tier potential.
Yeah, I'd say solo like easily S to A, because the randomness just kind of goes away. In a party setting, it gets kind of funky because you might overheal someone who just didn't need it, or you'll miss healing the person who does need it, and all. But then point for point, like it has like a lot of value for both the healing and hybrid. So like I use this personally when I'm soloing. In a team setting, not as much.
You know what? I love that we're talking about this as well, because like this has always been the tricky one for me to rate, because there is a scenario where I think it is maybe one of the best spells, and I think it might be, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe Hale can speak on this because he's used more like support builds, but I feel like this on a support build to at least have some use and like chip away on the damage and still do your heal might be the ideal use for it, because like for me as a DPS, I can only use it. I use it for Storm King, to be honest, for solo. Like I use it. That is really good. But I never bring it for like PvP. For a group setting, it's like it has no value. But to me, like if it's in the hands of a healer with like pretty good gear and stats, it might make your team more dynamic. So it has that like big potential, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely for more support-oriented, tank-oriented build, because it does give intelligence and constitution. Pound for pound as well, like the amount of stats on it is really good, which is fair because it is an exchange, like you're healing for damage. So it'll deal less damage than actual damage spells, but then you're also swinging with heals. So in the right setting, maybe against a boss that does AoE, it'll have like more value there. But then bosses that you can afford to taunt, I'll probably carry the taunt over this.
Yeah, I just like the design of the skill, to be honest. Like it's the fact that it can be done for like anyone, like and I think this is one build, and sorry Ryan, like it's not literally related to the spell tier, but like one build that I think hasn't been fully explored because it is the OBT, the range of gears, the limited information, limited spells. Like most people are doing DPS, so like I have seen tanks, I've seen like what Hale's build, but like we haven't really seen a lot of like full support dedicated builds, right? Where that is their whole essence. And I feel like once those builds start to materialize in the future, spells like this become like maybe even S tier because just of the situation and the meta of the game, where people are starting to be smart or like, oh yeah, I'm DPS, but I have a second loadout where I'm like full support because the stats make sense. I have high wisdom, high int, and then like they can deal devastating damage and heal. So like maybe in the perfect scenario in the future where like builds are more refined and the meta game is more refined or defined, it might be a better spell. So, but yeah, because of that, the design of the spell, I really like it. So, I don't know if it's A or B, but yeah, I guess it depends on the situation.
Yeah, I think B tier is safe. It definitely has its potential. Not for every situation though. Let's move on to. There's a couple ones here that I didn't actually get to see too much play of. One of them is this green one with it's like a yin and yang with the two beasts. Blessing of the Beasts. Regenerate an ally. Ward them if wounded. Otherwise empower them. Anyone have a chance to try this one out? I feel like Hale, you would have had a great time with this on Nyx.
Yeah, well, not this one for Nyx. This one was more of my early solo build. I ran this together with Riftbox. The thing I liked the most about Blessing of the Beasts was that it was a 3-turn cooldown. So I think my rotation at the time was like Blessing of the Beast, Riftbox, and like one other 3 turn spell. I think it was Fractal Fortune. And it was really just like the attrition build of like, I'm not going to die and you're going to die very slowly and you're not going to like it kind of build.
Right.
So again, like regenerating specifically an ally and then the coin flip of like either warding or empowering them. It's nice to have these kind of choices. Like Magic the Gathering had like a lot of spells where it would do one thing or the other, and it really allowed for different effects and plays to be made. We did the same thing sort of with Axie, where like a lot of effects would be like one thing or the other depending on one such situation. So like for what it is being single target regenerate, it kind of falls behind Drink Break for that. I think this would be better for like smaller skirmishes. Maybe if there's ever content that splits people up, that'd be very interesting. So this one for now, early game it was B, but then late game maybe C. Because like better things came out, is all I can say.
Yeah, I feel like B is the spot for it. Nyx, do you have any input?
I've never used it, so I I refuse to give a rating.
Okay, all right, we're gonna sit it in B. If there are better options later on that you run into. Because you only have 4 spell slots. There's this poison one. It's sort of like the other side of the coin to the thorned flower, right?
Yeah. I use this a lot.
Rift pops.
Originally, but then like when the Thorn Gift came out, it was like Thorn Gift all the way.
Yeah.
Same, but
yeah,
I don't like.
It's just a worse version of Thorn Gift.
Yeah, because like it's like chance to charm versus chance to sleep, and both of them give poison.
Both give, so the flower is poison burn, chance to charm. This one is poison confuse, chance to sleep.
Yeah, I like the guaranteed confuse. I think Riftbox is more solo, and Thorn Gift is more like team is where I'm at.
So here's my thoughts on this spell. Like it's super hard because like the thing with me is like sometimes like I put some spells at a higher regard because I use them to solo Storm King, which I think is like one of the hardest monsters to solo in the game. So this spell is actually there's a build where you can actually use this and the rose to solo Storm King.
Wow.
So like that alone. Like that fact alone, I cannot put it in D tier because Storm King is the strongest solo monster in the game. So like, I think it's B to be honest. Like you get that spell super early, right?
I'm in for B. I like the low cooldown on it. It's good for like kind of sustaining yourself. I use this to solo like the zombie boss.
Yeah.
Way back, and then Yeah.
It might be A, but no, because we put the rose in A, we can't put like.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but like it's really good. Like, the fact that you get it very early on from like whatever no cost, right? Like, and then yeah, maybe B, maybe high B, like almost A, almost.
Yeah,
A.
solid B for sure.
Maybe put it at the top of the B, I guess. I can't see the screen, so but like it's a really good spell. Like yeah, it's a really good spell.
Yep. All right, good. Let's there's a couple. Oh, we have a what is this? Reckless Abandon here. So this one's really interesting, and Daniel, maybe you can actually help clarify this one because it's the zoom attack spell. It deals hybrid damage to an enemy, and you accelerate yourself. Has a very small chance to grant haste. So accelerate, if I'm not mistaken, is the one where you speed up. Haste is the one where you jump forward, right?
Backwards.
Accelerate is the one
Backwards.
where you jump forward in the bar, and haste is the one where you get 3 turns of increased speed.
Okay, great. So a lot of the time when I used this spell, and I tested it over and over and over again, I couldn't find out why. But a lot of the time when I used the spell, my character would actually jump backwards, not forwards on the timeline. Is that the effect of a debuff that I was unaware of?
If you were jumping down in the bar, it was probably because you were being inflicted with an exhaust from an enemy.
So the enemy was hitting me with exhaust. Is what you're
correct.
saying. Okay. Man, maybe I'll have to relook through my stream to see if I can find an example of it. But yeah, I remember testing this over and over and over again, and I felt like it was like 75% of the time I'll jump forward, and then like 25% of the time I'll jump backwards. So it was for me it was a weird spell because I loved it, but then anytime I got jumped backwards, I would get mad and stop using it. So honestly, I like this one a lot. I think I want to put it in A tier.
I want to ask something though. And I'm not a physical build, so like I've not used it, but like I've seen like some part like Enzo, right? Like we partied like early in the CBTs. He loves the skill. So since Daniel's here, like I guess what made you guys like pull the trigger on like nerfing it? I think like was it just because like it was like the most value skill, or I guess just curious. Maybe it also sheds light like to the viewers, or like in the future like what makes like the balance team feel like, oh, all right, this is too good.
Yeah, no, I get the question, and as I said it before, there is a history to Zoom Attack. It's probably one of the spells that has changed the most throughout the builds, and one of the main reasons why we have the current iteration of the spell, where it's more based around the speed of the character, right? The speed that you get from this is not only to help characterize one of the philosophies of the Yellow Wizard, but also to open up a niche for a spell like Volatile Gambit. Because in the past, Zoom Attack used to be basically Volatile Gambit. It used to be the high single target physical attack that you used to do they used to nuke enemies. And the drawback that it had was more related to the recoil that you got from like tackling the enemy with your own mass, with your own body. And when we were developing these new spells, we realized there was not only there was this overlap between Volatile Gambit and Zoom Attack, but we also wanted to expand more on this kind of a speedster archetype of like a secondary DPS who specializes on acting faster, distributing the damage against high priority targets, where it's like, okay, my high damage DPS has to wait a turn to attack, so I'll just take care of the trash mobs with my quick spells, which have lesser damage but are more consistent. So we wanted to really open up their archetype, and that's why Zoom Attack pivoted into this new role, while Volatile Gambit now took the spotlight as a premium physical spell.
Nice. Yeah, thank you for that. I love the thought process on that.
Thank you.
So what are we thinking? A tier, B tier? I'm thinking A tier personally. I think when you combine it with Volatile Gambit, you throw out the Gambit first to get the rotation running, then you use the Zoom Attack, and you can basically play a Gambit again without too much time at all. It really helps to refresh those cooldowns. So I think it's an A tier, but you guys disagree?
I'm in for A. I'm a very big fan of like just speed control in general. I think there's a lot that happens there. It's like one of those more nuanced things, and like my headspace actually, and this is a bit of a segue, was like if in the future something more skill based, where like there's just like a sweet spot, like a skill check in the ATB bar, where maybe like if you cast your spell within that space, then you get like a baby accelerate, where it's still better than like had you been like spamming the button or holding it down. But like speed control in general is very interesting, especially in a game that uses an ATB.
Yeah, I'm good with it. Like I don't use it, but like I've seen it add value and be like used by a lot of people, and I think that alone is like a baseline for A. If like everyone's wants to use it, or like a lot of people who shares that like build type want to use it, then I think it's good.
Right. What about practice dummy? I think this one's a safe B tier. You know, I think most people aren't going to use it unless it's unless you've got the specific build that you and you're playing with the team, and it's extremely important for the utility. And if you're not using it for that utility, you're not going to use it at all. It's I don't think it's one of those situations where it's like, you know, like with Fallen Grace, for example, it's like you want to use it and you want it to be good, and then it falls short, I think, of your expectations. Whereas this one, it's always going to meet your expectations. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it serves its purpose.
I'd say B, as someone who uses this quite often. It's just the fact that like a lot of content just doesn't need it. You can sort of just like, you can replace it with an AoE spell and probably do better for majority of the content. But then like depending on your team, if they're very capable, then you might not need it at all. But then like in my experience again of like helping other players get through some of the content, my tank build helped a lot there, and by pulling the attention of the opponents onto myself, it really gave them a lot of space to breathe. But again, like for the purposes of the OBT, B is fairly safe. I'm looking forward to more dungeons or more mechanics where roles are a bit more stressed or rewarded.
Absolutely, I'm right there with you. I think we can jump right into these last two AoEs. We've got we'll start off with the Tremor first. Tremor
AoE stagger.
Yes, I think that is S tier.
That's S tier.
Yeah.
Yep.
So many amazing things you can do with this. It applies stagger. It's an AoE. It applies stagger. I think it lasts for 3 attacks. So you can throw out this AoE attack, apply stagger to all the enemies, and then the next 3 players, they can all use their AoE attack. The next round, whoever's going next, they throw out their stagger, and then the next 3 players, they throw out all their AoE attacks. So you can basically have permanent stagger by using this permanent damage boost by using this spell correctly throughout the team. You can also chain it with a high damage single attack spell like Ice Spear or Gambit. Throw out the stagger, get them weak, and then throw out this huge damage to get a big damage boost from the stagger. There's a lot of potential with this, and it is really good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's
All
good.
Right, what about the what is it? Heat wave. I think that's A tier.
What does it do, sorry?
So heat wave is also AoE, deals physical damage, and burns all enemies.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds A.
Yeah, I think it's the physical equivalent of
the
Shattered
bleed,
Crystal.
condensed volatility.
Exactly. So wow, we've got a pretty good distribution here. We've got 1 in Rect tier. We've got 5 in C, 5 in B, 6 in A, and 4 in S. And we're down to just our cantrips now. And you know, I want to start off the cantrip conversation by talking about Party Snappers and Solar Blast. And I'd love to call on Daniel here and just ask, what was the concept, what was the idea behind creating 2 different cantrips that sort of have a similar effect?
Okay, so the idea behind the 2 is that their similarities only go as far as the fact that they can proc 3 attacks on the same target, right? But the way they each individually work, again, are more reflective of their own colors. So for Solar Blast, you have a spell that is going to hit 3 times on the same target always, with a small chance to inflict a secondary effect, right? Which in this case is exhaust. So you're harnessing this power of the sun to tire down your enemies so your allies can act more, right? It is an enabler that is very in line with the White Wizard playstyle. But then you have on the Yellow Wizard repertoire, you have Body Snappers, which is a bit more playful, right? Because this is part of their culture, which is more of a celebration style. We're partying up here. Combat is more of a celebration, more of an expression of our style. So Body Snappers, yes, it can hit 3 times on the same enemy, but it's a similar situation with Fate Reversa, where it will only hit 3 times against the same enemy if there's only one enemy. If there are more enemies, the chances of you hitting the same one are lower because it's just going to spread, right? Because you're spreading this joy and this celebration amongst the enemies. So they are very reflective cantrips of the ideas behind the colors.
Yeah, thank you for the awesome lore drop. I love hearing the in universe story behind the actual spells. That's great. Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Anytime.
Party Snappers for me is S tier, but
what?
Yeah, I think I'll tell you why. It's because it's one of the highest damage cantrips. When it's single target, when they all land on the same target, it's one of the highest damage cantrips, right? But it can also like when you combine all 3 hits, and add them up. But then it can also take out other mobs, like when we're doing the bear, when we were fighting the not the dire bear, but the regular black bear. Sometimes you have an extra mob with only like 100 HP, but you don't want to throw out an AoE card just to get rid of the mob, because it's not going to do any damage to the bear, and you want to optimize your time. So actually using Party Snappers is a great way to get big damage on the bear still, and then have that extra hit go to the rat, take out the rat. Now you're not having to waste a card spell, a spell card on that mob there. I see it. Very, very versatile, and I think just in terms of yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I see it. Go.
Yeah, I think S tier for snappers. Honestly, so the cantrips are weird. Are any of these not S tier? Because they're all really good for their very specific situation, and you can only use one of them. Are there any that we don't use? Like, if you're physical, you use the one that shields you. If you're magic and you want to sustain, use the one that heals you. Leech, I think they're both great. Phaser and Fireball. If you're pure physical, you go Fireball. If you're pure magic, you go Phaser. We got Party Snappers. I think these are all S tiers. I don't even think we need to go through it because they're all so like clear. But the two that I am skeptical on are Destructive Rune. I don't think I use this one too much. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah, we got word from chat that it's been changed from the Dispel to Enfeeble and Stagger. A 25% chance according to the wiki, if that's accurate. It is RNG. So I will say that there will be moments where it might not do what you expect it to do. Whereas the other cantrips are
if it's
a bit more effective damage wise. But then again, if I look at it, it's they all kind of have the same rates as far as the chance for their effect goes, save for Party Snappers and Frag Wall, which will always deliver the full effect. Maybe Leech Sustenance technically also delivers the full effect. So I'd say all pretty much an S, A, and B, where B for me would really just be I don't know. I can't give a fair rating to Destructive Rune because I haven't played it enough ever since it's changed.
I want to put it in. I want to put it in C or D tier. Yeah, I don't like random chance.
Yeah.
I think the cantrip, I think what would be easier is let's just decide which ones are S, definitively S. Right?
I say Firebolt, Frost Phaser, and Snappers are my S tiers.
Yeah,
same. And then the healing is A. The green one.
I'd say healing and frag. Well, frag. again, it's one of those things where it's like if you need it, you need it. If you don't, you don't. So maybe Frag goes to B just for the OBT. I love Frag. It's wonderful. Only because I actually tank, but then everyone else is gonna be like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
For me, like I like the frost, the water gun, the phaser, because like
good.
just for the fact that I want to highlight that it is literally the highest damage output cantrip in the game. Like
that is true.
Proven. It is proven. Like
yeah,
when I crit, dude, I deal more damage than whatever my teammates is putting. Like their best spell is literally my cantrip. Like that is how powerful it is. So I think I think party snappers, you raise a good point because like it is so versatile. Like it adds value in an AOE, like with the AOE setting, and then when the boss is solo, it deals like high damage as well because the boss eats up everything. So I don't have much experience on the fireball, but like, do you guys think the fireball is at the same level of party snappers and frost?
It's the physical side of like.
But is it as good?
I think they have the exact same stats. Don't they?
Does it?
Oh, right. So frost. Yeah, you're right. Frost phaser is a next level. It's a tier 2 cantrip.
Yeah.
So it does have more stats to offer your character. So for that, that's a good point. For that point specifically, yeah, I do think. Yeah, I do think frost phaser goes S and fire goes A.
I feel like fire still goes A because it's the only physical choice. Like if you're building physical, you're gonna go firebolt.
Yeah, but you just go party snappers anyway. I've been going party snappers as a physical build. I've been going. I almost
fair.
Yeah,
it has high stats.
You're right.
That's the problem with a fireball. Like we may be overvaluing fireball. It might be B, I think.
Yeah, well, we had this conversation, and just to remind chat about it, Daniel did come in and say that all the spells from level 1 to level 50, or whatever the level cap's going to be, are meant to still be played at some point. And, you'll have to listen back on the concept of it, but, like, as the crystals contain the essence of these spells, and there being ways to infuse more power into them, I can see a world where, like, spells you receive earlier can then be improved to be kind of up to speed with everything else. But again, for the OBT, snappers, phaser, S, I think.
Yeah.
Frag wall, maybe solar blast can go to B. I like the concept of solar blast, but then like again for the OBT. Like, you didn't really need to exhaust the opponent as much.
Yeah, and then I was gonna touch on a bit of a pain point. Not even a pain point, just something that I wish I had seen more of. But yeah, it's not even worth it.
You imagine like, what if there was a boss that like you could just like perma exhaust? Like, what if all 4 people just went solar blast? It's like, yeah, bro, you're not playing anymore,
bro.
Right? I'm just saying,
bro.
It could happen,
bro. Nobody ever thought about that.
You're just like you get all dexterity, like all dexterity only, but we never play anything else. It's only like solar blast. It's like blast. It's like nah, you stay there.
Wow.
Again, like sky's the limit.
It's a 25% chance, but if all 4 players are playing it, hey, what is 25 times 4?
Yeah, it's like they'll just like not attack that often. Like they'll get one in every now and then, I guess, but like whatever.
Right, that is a very interesting concept. Thank you for that, Hale.
I think it's good for PvP.
Push it up. I'm kind of tempted to push it up now. But
don't leak our strats just yet.
It's all theoretical. I think for now that this is a great place to call it.
Daniel in the back taking notes, like,
I'm not taking notes. I mean, the code right now is changing everything.
He's already in there. He's like, wait a minute. All right, we're gonna add.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was gonna say like there's gonna be a little buff marker that says like you can't get exhausted until your next turn.
That's right. And I don't say like not to take up much time because I know it's kind of late already, but it's it's surprising to me how a lot of these spells like position like very accurately to what I expected, but some are outliers that just make me like reevaluate the way we test things. For example, for the longest time, Chilling Bread has been one of the most powerful tools in players' arsenals, and I think it has to do a lot with the different approaches. And this is why events like this beta and having this conversation is so enriching for us. Because when we're testing, we have our QA team. Like shout out to the QA team; they're wonderful people. And when we're testing the things, we're really optimizing for efficiency, but not in a matter of time, right? So tools like Shilling Bread that lets us slow down the enemy so that they can almost never act become really powerful. But then when you have an event like this, where you have players trying to find faster ways, at the expense of maybe taking bigger risks, then spells like this, which are more of a war of attrition kind of style, take the backseat to other spells. So seeing these new perspectives are why it's so amazing for us to play the game with players coming in and discovering all these new ways of fighting the enemies that we set up for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick. So I'll go after.
And then, okay. So like, I want to talk to Chilling Breath quickly because like, it is maybe it is the spell that I've always used since the beginning, right? So I think you're 100% right, and like maybe to add the POV of like someone who's trying to figure out the best builds possible as well, maximizing my character. The reason why I think like in theory it could be the best like spell in the game, but like the trade-off that I'm getting because it is a low magic damage versus say like condensed volatility, which is a medium magic damage and has bleed. So like over time, I feel like it's called Chilling Breath is Memory of the Peaks, right? Like the biggest value I get from it is the int. Like it has a high int variable. I think it's like 30% or something
36
crazy.
max, yeah.
Yeah, so like I cannot unequip it. Like I cannot like it's good. Like, but I think if it was not low, like and I'm not telling Daniel to buff this, but if you want to, feel free. But like if it was medium, like if it was a medium magic damage, then I think like it is hands down the best skill because the low is just too much, especially as in the later stages of the game where like I kind of like feels ridiculous like that there's a turn that sure I'm able to slow, but then like but I have teammates using Frost Phaser, someone using the Ice Spear, maybe someone even using that. So like I question the value sometimes, and like especially when I see the low damage numbers. But I completely get what you mean. I'm just like kind of sharing I guess the other side of like why I feel like don't get me wrong, I still use it. Will probably still use it because of the int variable, but like it's not like I'm not very happy with the damage that it deals, and like in contrast to like a similar spell, which is like the condensed volatility, which like has the bleed, which the damage is so good on the bleed, and also the initial damage of the AOE is so good, right? So in like in a random mob, when I step on it, I can click condensed volatility and kill them, right? Like instantly. But like I do the same for like Chilling Breath, like it has 5-second cooldown, and I didn't even kill or like I didn't even deal so much damage. So like that's kind of like always the trade-off, in at least in my head.
Yeah. It's like a dead card that you add to buff the rest of your build.
For me, it's like I think maybe
I wouldn't call it dead, though, but yeah.
It's a strong opener. Like if you're talking tempo, right, and if you're fighting like a boss that maybe has like a couple trash mobs, like if you've ever experienced like soloing the wisps in the south side of the Witch of the Wilds, like they will wreck you. Like if you're not ready for it, they will wreck you because they keep going at you. But then like so in settings where like it's 4v4, you throw out the Chilling Breath and they gotta chill for 3 turns. That buys you enough time to kind of like knock 1 or 2 out, and then it really kind of snowballs the tempo in the favor of your team. I don't know if you gas it a second time and then it's just there for like stat fodder. But like in the future, I wouldn't be surprised if we get like bosses that just resummon mobs, right? That's not impossible.
Yeah, the cooldown I'm not thrilled as well. Like I guess like the 5 seconds. Like I feel like it was like I understand maybe the team felt like it could be too good, but like those are 2 things. Like it has one of the highest cooldowns in the game, and the low magic damage variable is kind of what gets me. But then I guess they make it up for like giving it a high int variable. So yeah, TLDR, you guys are geniuses. So it's but like
thank you. That's a high praise.
it feels very well thought out. Like honestly, like the way you that as we talk about it and how you're balancing it, because like if it had medium magic damage, it would be too good, right? Like so, like there's this,
Yeah.
you know.
It feels like it's like this thin line where it's like one step closer you're too good, and like as it is now, it's
Yeah.
like it's leaving you asking for more. But
Yeah. I feel like they balance it intentionally because like it has the potential to be like so strong, where it's like maybe over balanced. I don't know, just throwing it out there, but yeah.
Well, I think this is great for the tier list. We definitely succeeded in what seemed like a very monumental task when we first began this tier list almost 2 hours ago now.
I can only imagine how many people we've upset with this tier list, but that's just the nature of the tier list.
My favorite spell. Why? No, it's better than C. It's better than C.
What do you mean it's C?
Oh my gosh!
You just don't know how to use it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what we figured out very early on in this tier list was that like everybody has different ways of playing the game and different ways of using the spell, and it really is subjective at the end of the day. This tier list, but we are going to end out the stream for people who participated in the Grim Bear Challenge. Unfortunately, it is a bit too late. I think everything else just took a bit too much time, so we're going to go through that tomorrow, and I'll be posting on Twitter and celebrating for all the winners as well. So if you are a participant, just make sure to be checking out Twitter tomorrow. In the meantime, this was a phenomenal stream. Thank you everyone who joined. It went longer than I expected it to, but I think that's just because I think that just shows how much we enjoy talking about the game. Thank you everybody who joined me here in the call, Nixtape, Hale, Daniel, and everyone who's funneled in since. I see you all here in the Discord now. Are there any last words you'd like to leave with the stream? Anyone here?
I guess for myself, like with all the discussion, it really is just a taste of like what's to come, in my opinion. Like as a player and as someone who's worked in design for some time. I'm very excited to see what the team can, where the team will take things from here. Myself, like I can sort of see the threads in place and what's possible. So there's a lot to be excited for, in my opinion. It was an OBT after all, and there were certain things that were probably intentionally like sought out by the team as far as feedback is concerned. So like all of the major systems were in place, and so I'm looking forward. You know, I'll be a little bit busy for the next few months, and so this pause came at like the perfect time. I prefer if we're not there, but then you know that is just how development works. So that's it for me. Thank you, everyone. Daniel, thank you for your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the stream, and Ryan for putting it together. Really good. So this may be a video that hopefully, you know, people will look back and feel like as we get closer to the game reopening, there's a lot of gems and, you know, nice discussions that was put forth in this video.
Yeah,
exactly.
I really appreciate the way that Daniel answers the questions and provides us with like just the right amount of technical and just the right amount of like flavor, design, you know, sort of perspectives on like how it goes about. And for me, it's such a good thing to see that there is that color pie that is in place with like how these things are designed. So it's not just like, oh, we need a spell that does this and then does that, and you just make it. But then like there's stories behind each spell and their intentions, and you know, in what house of wizards they belong to. So I love when it's something's very flavorful. It really gives the game its character, and I think the team has been hitting it out of the park.
That's, well, you made it. You made me blush. That was honestly, thank you. Like these words and the whole reception of the community and all the activity that we've seen over these past few days has made these one of the most rewarding projects, I think. And I think I speak for the team here. Like, it's been such a pleasure to deliver this experience to all players and see them interact with this world that we are creating in tandem with them. Because at the end of the day, this is a world that has a lot of history. So bringing that history to life and getting to put our own like part of our soul into it, and see you guys enjoying that and looking forward to all the things that we're brewing, because there's still a lot that we're preparing for you and a lot of surprises. It's been incredible. Like, it's what keeps us going in the morning.
I
Awesome.
cannot wait. I am horribly excited to see all those surprises. Thank you, everyone, for joining the stream. Thank you, Hale. Thank you, Nix. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't have done it by myself, y'all. It was a team effort. It was a team effort.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, everybody.
Cheers.
And thank you,
All
chat,
right.
for hanging out with us for 3-ish hours. We're signing off.
Absolutely. We are signing off. I'm going to mute
Back through the
myself real
portal.
quick. All right, yeah, we are signing off, everybody. Thank you so much. It is the end of the stream. There is no more. The end of Grimoire stream number 1. Wow. I was not expecting it to go so long. I was not expecting it to go so smooth. But, hey, we had a lot of fun, and we learned a lot, too. Forgotten Runiverse is not over. It will be coming back, and we will all be waiting here for you when it does. So, until then, I'll see you around the Runiverse.